So, Assalamu alaikum, Kiora, and hello everyone. Few of you guys might aware of Kiora is like greeting in New Zealand's local language. It's a language of Maori people, the people who were like indigenous people, and later on English people. They came here back in in 18th century, and they basically developed this country. We call it New Zealand, and its Maori's name is Aotearoa, same like New Zealand, but in Maori language. Welcome to you all to our today's certification course, that is Discipline Agile Scrum Master. This course is around 2 days long, or in other words, 16 hours of course, but we distributed the course on four-hour sessions. So it means that our course will run for Fridays and Saturdays for 2 weeks. And there was a bit of confusion about the timings, and that was the confusion between me and PMI Lahore chapter. And I think they published it 3 p.m., but actually it's 3:30 p.m. And in Saudi Arabia, this time is 1:30 p.m. Is it correct, Sarah?
Yes, it's correct. It's 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. KSA time.
True. So originally it was 1:30 to 5:30 KSA time, and in Pakistani time it should be like 3:30, but I think there was a confusion. Sorry about that. Now let's move further, and let's have a look on overall course content of Discipline Agile Scrum Master certification. As I mentioned earlier, it will run for 2 days, but we distributed it over 4 sessions for 4 hours. 4 hours long. On day one, that we will be covering today and tomorrow, we will be covering 4 main topics. We will start our discussion from Agile. I believe few of you already are well aware about Agile, but there will be some participants who might be new to Agile. So we will start with the Agile, and then after that, we will be talking Agile and beyond. We will be looking at Agile movement, especially the Agile Manifesto. It was like developed back in 2001, 2 decades ago. We will have a look and see that what happened in 20 years, and where is the current, what's the current status of Agile, where Agile is standing up at the moment. And from there, we will slowly move toward Discipline Agile, and we will see that what is Discipline Agile itself, and how it is different from some popular Agile methods such as Scrum and Safe, etc. That would be the topics of our today's discussion. Tomorrow, we would be talking about uh, 2 more bits. That would be as a Discipline Agile Scrum Master, how you will be building and supporting Discipline Agile teams. We will be looking at different DA roles and team structures and how they are different, etc. Then tomorrow's our last topic would be choose your wow. Wow stands for way of working, and it would be how can we choose our agile way of working using Discipline Agile toolkit. So it means that Discipline Agile is a toolkit for enterprise agility and team agility as compared to a particular method, or you can say a particular framework. I believe that most of you guys are aware of Scrum method, isn't it? So Scrum is a method. It is like a prescriptive method. It is not basically a toolkit. It is not something who gives you choices to choose your own way of working. That's what we will be looking at. And then on day 2, we will be talking more about discipline agile in more depth. We will be looking on different phases that discipline agile recognize and recommends while we are managing a project using agile way of working. We will be looking on 3 key phases. That would be in inception phase. Inception phase is more about starting a project or starting a product. And then we will move to next phase, that is construction phase, or you can say engineering phase, and few of the guys, they call it development phase. And then there comes our third phase, that is transition phase, when our solution is deployed into the operations, when our project completed or our product is developed, or we release our solution, how to basically transit it to the operations. And then we also be looking on something that is throughout all different phases, and we call it ongoing, or you can say ongoing activities or ongoing processes that help us to work as a high performing teams. We will conclude our training by looking on how a disciplined agile scrum master can work not only with the team, but how can he or she can work with beyond the team, with other teams or other stakeholders, etc. So these are our key topics that we will be covering in disciplined agile scrum master. Any question about it? Now, let's move further and do some housekeeping. We will be taking frequent breaks. Our breaks would be after 2 hours. We will take like a 5 minutes break, and we will be back from break on time. And as you know that we will be conducting this session in a very interactive way. I mean, we will be doing quite a lot of activities, quite a lot of discussion, a lot of questioning and answering, learning from each other. So it will be more like a collective wisdom than only I will be delivering a lecture and you will be learning. In case if you have pen and paper available with you, it would be awesome. Otherwise, we will be using different techniques to basically understand various different concepts. And then I would also request, in case if you really don't have any issue, keep your cameras on. It improves communication because we are already doing live streaming. It is not face to face. But in case if you cannot switch on your camera, it's all right. You can keep your mics on mute. However, feel free to unmute your mics when you want to comment or when I request you to basically answer something, etc. So these are key housekeeping rules that we will be keeping. And next is Bible for Discipline Agile. As you all guys are from PMI, you are PMI members, you already know about PMBOK version 6 or 7. Okay, few people call it Bible for project management. On the same lines, this book called Choose Your Wow. It's a second edition. It is a Bible for disciplined agile. How many of you were able to access to the learning portal by PMI?
I could do that.
You got
I did
access?
that.
Yeah, awesome. And what about you, Sarah?
Me too.
Yes, I have access to it.
Okay, that's awesome. So if you go to that learning portal, you can easily download this book. And this is the book that will be helping you to prepare your Discipline Agile Scrum Master certification. Let me share the screen so that we can have a look that what resources are available on this learning portal. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So if you look on this end, here you have download, choose your WoW book. So you can download this book from this site and can use it. And I believe that if you are PMI Global member, you can download it anyway. Along with this, there will be many resources available, including, for example, course material, instructor resources. And I sent this book to, I think, most of the participants, that is Scrum Essentials. It is a 14 pages book by Scrum Alliance that gives you some fundamental understanding of Scrum. Again, Scrum is one of the very popular method for agile way of working or agile project management. At the end of the course, feel free to give the feedback about the course, about the trainer, etc. Along with this, you can also get your certificate of completion at the end of the course. Here, I would like to recommend that while we will be learning, uh, please download one key document, and we call it, let me show you. It's just popping up. Activity workbook. We will be using this activity workbook throughout our sessions, and we will be doing some activities as given in this workbook. So you can download this workbook from here, from course material. Okay. Any question about it?
Yeah. So I want to understand. Sorry, if you can not hear me. So I wanted to know how long we can access this resource site.
You can,
Or
yeah, you can access it for 1 year. That's available for 1 year for you. However, if we talk about the exam, the process is, once we will complete the course, I will be able to send your names to PMI, and PMI will generate a voucher for each of you. That voucher is exam voucher. It will be valid for uh, 1 month. Okay. In other words, you will be able to appear for exam within 1 month. And then, uh, just a minute. Yusuf, thanks a lot for reminding us that we should keep our recording on. And now I'm sharing our session 1. Can you see the screen? Okay, cool. Awesome.
yes. Professor, I have one question. You showed us the activity book. I cannot locate it on the resource section.
It must be with a different name, but it is available there. I can go and check for you.
Activity form is on, I think that was a folder within the folder.
Oh, yeah. And if you go to, I think it's with the name DASM Participant Guide. Can you see this guide?
Participant, that is workbook. One is DSM's participant guide, one is DSM workbook, and one is the brochure. Three documents are there.
So if you open participant guide, especially in the instructor, for us, it is like activity workbook. Can you try this one, participant guide, Umar?
I actually cannot find them. It's human resources, right? I should go in human resources.
Oh, yeah,
I
it should be
see.
in student resources, but
And
never.
then I should go to study guide, right?
Oh, yeah.
our screen is different, Umar.
Yeah, it is different from the instructor. Yeah,
Exactly.
agreed. Hmm.
So on top, we have got the PDF for each lecture. And underneath,
Yeah.
there is another box. And in that, you click and you will find the guide, the workbook, and the brochure.
And in meanwhile, what can I do is I can send it in the chat so that you can download. What do you
Sure.
think?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
We can look at it separately. I couldn't find it, but there's be somewhere.
Oh, yeah. So just excuse me for the wrong spellings because I wrote quickly, but it will be available for you. And soon it will appear. Well, guys, let's start our session all about Agile. And I believe by looking at your experience, many of you guys are well aware about Agile. So it will be more like discussion instead of a lecture. Now let's start with the agenda. Agenda of this session is, as a DA Scrum Master, it's pretty important that you should know the basics of Agile, how Agile was started, its origin, the Agile Manifesto, how Agile works, and again, in an agnostic way, not looking from a particular method way like a Scrum or XP, etc. So the key topics we are going to cover are shown on the slide. Yusuf, would you like to read them for me? Just unmute yourself, Yusuf. I think Yusuf is away. So what is Agile, the Agile Manifesto, how does Agile work, and then the information radiators. These will be our key topics. And when we will be talking about how Agile works, this iterative process work, we will be looking on what are the iterations and how can we plan iterations, what are different ceremonies and artifacts that are normally used in Agile. The user stories, very famous concept, very popular. We will be looking at it, and then we also have a look on iteration demonstration, and few of the Agilists, they call it product demo as well. So these are the key topics. Let's start our journey. We are going to start our journey actually not from Agile, but from Waterfall, but in the context of software projects. And here I would request Umar, would you like to comment on this figure?
Yes. So let me know if you can hear me. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So there is this requirements phase that we have. This is basically a typical SDLC that we call software development lifecycle. So you have requirements, and then you create the architecture, design it, and then you construct that, you develop the solution. And as we can see that there are two things that are conveyed in this diagram. One is that which how the phases flow, how we move from one phase to another, and also the relationship of verification of requirements versus what sort of test, how you're verifying that. So requirements will probably lecture process, so the bottom of it is the unit test for code or whatever work that you've written, and that's then it moves up. So
Yeah, so that's basically a predictive SDLC, isn't it? A software development lifecycle. And this is a way how we use to develop our softwares, or how we use to manage our software development projects. It was it was in use since 1960s when we start developing the applications or the programs, and it was inspired from our traditional and mature approach of waterfall that was like very popular in many other industries like manufacturing, construction, healthcare, shipping, etc. And what this approach says, what we do is, based on our requirements, our customer or stakeholder requirements, normally what we do is we develop a plan. Okay. Here I'm talking about the requirements which are like high level requirements. We develop a detailed plan that we call it project management plan, where we talk about all the bits from scope to stakeholder engagement. And then what we do is, with the help of business analysts, we explore these requirements in detail. And when we are exploring these requirements, basically we are talking about how to elicit the requirements, how to document them, how to analyze them, verify them, validate them, and then by using different techniques of prioritization, how to add them in our scope. So normally what happens at this point in time, our business analysts team, they are like under full pressure, and with the project managers, normally they are doing this activity. Once our requirements are completed, then we go for the architecture using any of the software architecture techniques. There are many available in the market. Okay. And then we design our solutions. These designs could be screen designs, could be wireframes, could be prototypes, could be anything. Okay. And based on that documents of our solution architecture or solution design, we develop our solution. Our developers, our programmers, they write the codes. While they are writing the codes, for each piece of the code, they keep on doing the unit testing. So unit testing is something that validate our each bit of the code. When we have like enough code written for a particular functionality or a particular feature, then we normally go for functional testing. That validates that, okay, our design that we develop is validated or not. Whatever we develop, does it validate our design or not? And then integration testing, that is more about when our solution is going to be part of existing solutions or legacy solution, or maybe we are developing it for multiple platforms, etc. Then we normally go for integration testing. It validates our solutions architecture and how it could be integrated with our enterprise architecture if there is any. And then acceptance testing. This acceptance testing could be our, for example, user acceptance testing, could be our usability testing, etc. And again, the purpose of acceptance testing is to confirm that our client's requirements are fulfilled or not. However, the issue with this V-shaped approach of developing software was the visibility. The visibility between the phases was very low. When we are doing the requirements, we really don't have any idea about architecture or design or the development, etc. And when we go to next stages, for example, construction, at that point, we have done a lot of work on requirements gathering, or architecture and design is developed. It becomes very, very tough to make changes in our architecture or design. That is the major issue of like plan-driven software development, lifecycle or software project management. However, we have seen that our customers over the period of time, our stakeholders over the period of time, they learn quite a lot. What happened is, like with the evolution of internet, with the evolution of like social media, our stakeholders, they learn about their needs over the time, like through progressive elaboration. So what they want is, they all the time ask for the changes so that their solution should be effective, their solution should be consumable, their solution should be highly competitive as compared to their competitors in the market. So what happens is, like our requirements from the user, they become more and more uncertain. On the other side, we have seen that technologies are evolving very fast. So sometimes when we gather the requirements while keeping one technology in mind, or design or architect our solution while keeping one technology in mind, and at the time of development, what we see is that we might have a better technology to implement that solution, etc. Better computer language or IDE is available, etc. Or testing platforms are available. So it becomes very, very tough to go back and change our architecture or design. So these were the issues that prompted the software developers to find better ways of developing softwares. So this movement of Agile, it started back in 1990s, where the software developers or software project managers, they start thinking that we should be finding a different way of working, where we can harness the change, where we should foster an environment where we can work closely with our stakeholders, our customers, for their competitive advantage by addressing their changing needs. So that was the main reason many different methods in 1990s were developed, including feature-driven development or DSDM or XP or Scrum. Okay. And the aim of those methods was, instead of working in phases where we are blind from other phases, work in an iterative approach. Instead of doing a big upfront design or big upfront planning, okay, we should do it in an iterative fashion. So what they did is they said that, okay, we can do planning in the start, but that planning shouldn't be very in depth. It should be at a high level. We might have just project or product vision. Okay. That could be just in the form of an elevator statement instead of writing a detailed chart or a detailed plan. Similarly, we may have a product roadmap or project roadmap that can tell us that, okay, what would be the key milestone, what will be our release dates, and what is like uh, estimated budget range that we will be consuming. But again, we will not be doing a very detailed planning for our budgets, for our schedule, so on and so forth. In fact, what we do based on our high level requirements, you can call them epics or the number of features, we will develop a product backlog. Okay. We will put those what we will do, we will decompose those high level requirements into the user stories. Again, the concept of user story has come from design thinking, where we look at the requirements not from our perspective, but from user perspective. So that's basically the user stories. So what we will do, we will put user requirements in the form of user stories in a product backlog or similar type of artifact. Okay. And then we will prioritize high value items uh, in the product backlog. Based on those high value items, what we will do, we will develop them. In other words, we will run iterations. Okay. Instead of working in phases or uh, working on the complete solution in one go, we will be running multiple iterations, and instead of working on like all the design, we will basically just take the top requirements, maybe first one or two user stories, and we'll develop it within one iteration. In fact, what we do under each iteration, we run all the phases, including, for example, requirements exploration, or you can say that further elaboration of the requirements, analysis of the requirements, design, development, testing, everything within, for example, 1 to 4 weeks. But we will do this thing, all these phases, we will run all these phases only for example, 2 or 3 user stories. We'll develop it, and at the end, we will show to our customers, to our stakeholders. And then we will go for next sprint, and we will keep on doing it till end. And at the end, we will have a completed solution available here. Okay, that's high level. There are many things, many different variations of it, but I am not going depth of in those uh, iteration details. Important thing to remember is instead of going for big upfront planning or design, we will be working in iterations, and instead of working on like big items or big deliverables, we will be decomposing them into small consumable increments. That's basically the Agile that was started back in 1990s. Here, your questions and comments are most welcome.
I just have one comment.
Mhm.
The SDLC model which you explained,
Yep.
I just wanted to say it is also known in software industry as a V process model,
True, agreed.
and that is evolved out of the waterfall.
It was agreed. So it was adopted for software projects, and because it looks like V, so they also call it V-shaped model. Thanks a lot, Sil. Now let's move further. The start of 2001. At that time, around 17 software project management or product management thought leaders, they gathered together in Utah, and the purpose was let's do something that can help us to develop better software. No doubt, agile methods were developed back in 1990s, many agile methods, but they choose not to call as agile methods. The first time this terminology was coined was in 2001, and here what they said is like we are going to develop softwares in a better way, and we will be helping others to develop the software in better way by the publication of this Agile Manifesto. Now, Sarah, can you please read this Agile Manifesto for us?
Yeah, sure. The 4 values of the Agile Manifesto, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan.
This manifesto says that we understand that processes and tools are very, very important, especially when your companies grow, when they scale up. Processes and tools are very helpful. But what we do is we prefer individuals and interactions over process and tools. I mean, the preference is towards these guys. What does it mean? You can use any, I'm just taking an example. You can use, for example, any tool to measure the performance of your team. Okay, you can develop any process to measure the performance of your team. But important thing is, don't manage with the measurements. That's important. Mean, if you got the data, if you got some performance metrics in front of you, really don't make decisions based on those metrics. If you find any issue, uh, don't make the decision based on that data. Go and talk with the team. Then you will be able to identify that what is the main reason of a issue in the results or in the performance measurement, etc. Similarly, the second point is where we understand that documentation is very, very important at many different places, especially when there is government requirements, regulatory requirements, there are standards to follow, etc. We have to do a lot of documentation. Okay, not only for this purpose, also for the purpose of, for example, solution usability. When we develop a solution, we might not use that solution, but our users will be using that solution. So for them, we need manuals, we need documents. Similarly, to operate any solution, we need um, uh, procedure, we need SOPs to follow. So it means that documentations are pretty important, but uh, our real measure of success uh, should be working software. Uh, and when we talk about working software, here I would like to remind that this manifesto was published for software industry, for the software applications. But now we have seen that Agile is instead of just a buzzing word, it has become a tested and proven technique. And we have seen that because of Agile way of working, the IT industry or IT solution industry has grown much faster than any other industry. Uh, what happened is people start adopting Agile way of working everywhere. Now, either it's a HR or procurement or engineering industries or R&D or electronic product design, everywhere we are using Agile way of working. It means that when we talk about working software, for software applications, our right measurement or our measure of success, okay, working software. But what about if you are an electronic engineer and you are developing an electronic product? Will working software is enough to measure your success? Maybe not. Okay, you might need much more than that. In fact, what Discipline Agile says, we use a terminology called consumable solutions. Okay, consumable solution is much more comprehensive than working software. It includes not only the software, but also the hardware on which this software or firmware will be working, also the documentation that is required to use this product. Similarly, in the processes that are improved as a result of this consumable solution, or maybe your organizational systems that are changed as a result of this consumable solution when it is integrated into your system, or maybe your organization culture that is changed. So our real measure of success should be consumable solution instead of just working software. But nevertheless, this Agile Manifesto, it has its importance. It has served the industry very well, but it's time to move further. So we can read consumable solution over comprehensive documentation. And then there comes customer collaboration over contract negotiation. As a solution development team, as a solution supplier, our focus should be collaborating with the customer instead of just locking down our contracts, just focusing on, okay, yeah, be hurry and just lock down the scope in the contract. Okay, our focus should be working with the customers, and we might go for those type of contracts that can provide the competitive advantage to our customers. In fact, we have seen that many different agile contracts are developed, especially DSDM, this method of agile. It proposes many different agile contracts. You can go back and can check that what different type of contracts are available. And then the last point is uh, plan. Uh, we understand if our background is waterfall, we understand that, okay, we normally develop a detailed plan. And in fact, we understand the need of planning as well. Uh, in pure agile world, what happens is uh, the people who are agile purists, what they think is uh, planning doesn't have any value at all. In other words, what they think is the time they spend on planning has no value. Okay, so value uh, on planning is nothing. On the other side, the waterfall guys, they believe in that there is a lot of value and there is a maximum value for planning. In fact, the fact lies somewhere in the middle. Okay, planning has importance, planning has value, but it is important to understand that when to plan. Okay, planning has real value when we planning as per our need basis, when we plan when it best suits. Okay, in agile world, we really don't do our detailed planning in the start, but we do planning, and we do a lot of planning maybe uh, later in our projects, maybe in the start of our iteration, etc. But nevertheless, what Agile says, planning has its value, but what we really want to do is we don't want to do detailed upfront plan so that we can respond to change. We can create an environment and uh, so that we can harness change for the competitive advantage of our customers. Does it make some sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Anyone would like to comment here on this slide?
Any particular point of the manifesto? Or
No, any, mean, if you have any idea in your mind or any comment in your mind, just feel free.
I think the manifesto is very much still valid. One
It
problem
is.
that I find that has maybe value in the team more and almost same as other point is that comprehensive documentation. So any project you go to and you don't find documentation, so maybe having very detailed documented plans is one thing, but necessary documentation for that's a way of communication and also saving a lot of conversations. So instead of having like the company that I'm working at, they're saving these conversations for people, for onboarding, from tool learning new tools and everything. So if you have documentation, you save people's time and you value their respect them. I think that's an important point that should not be overlooked.
Yeah, it is very important. And mean, for compliance, quality, regulatory purposes, or even for like for our NFRs, non-functional requirements, like our operability or our consumability of the solution, we require documents. Our user need that support, isn't it? Yeah,
So,
but
yeah,
he
so for just one example, like for example, like as a project manager, I want to understand the architecture of the system, right? And you
true,
have got these great guys, everything in their head, and they have these conversations with themselves. They can explain it to each other, but as a technical person, you want to understand what's happening behind scenes under the hood, and you don't have those diagrams, for example. So three, four, as I say, that picture is worth 1,000 words. If you have one diagram, it can save maybe 10, 12 hours of conversation you would have to have with different people. So I'm talking about that kind of documentation, not like detailed, reports and
true. True, yeah, I agree. So that's why what Agile promotes is instead of like Agile plans or Agile documents, they promote like more models, Agile models that are used. And you know that we can basically represent our requirements or our data in the form of those models. Uh, However, the comment they made here is that our measure of success should be our consumable solution. Again, when we have a lot of documents, a lot of artifacts available, but our solution is not basically consumed by our users, then again, it would not be our success. What we really want is we want our users to consume our solution and love to consume our solution, and if possible, can recommend others to use our solution. And then here comes 12 agile principles, the famous agile principles. Anyone who never went through these principles, or someone who is looking on these principles for the first time? So once Agile Manifesto was published along with the Agile Manifesto and its 4 core values that we covered in the last slide, 12 principles, foundational principles or building blocks of Agile Manifesto were published too, and they are given here. We will quickly go through these building blocks and would request Sarah to go through first 4 principles.
The first one is satisfy the customer.
Yeah.
As and the second one is welcoming the change. Third one is deliver frequently, and the fourth one is working together.
We will be going through these principles very quickly because our focus would be more on discipline agile, but there are few participants whose background is not agile. So for them, it's very important to understand these principles. We can satisfy the customers by delivering them value early and often. That's pretty important in many ways. If we can provide the solution to our customers in an early and often manner, for example, instead of providing the solution after 1 year of time, okay, if we can start providing some bits, some features of that solution after each 2 weeks, okay, what would happen? The customer will start using it and they will getting their ROI back, return on investment back. Okay, it will help to satisfy our customers. And when we say customers, it include not only the users of that solution, but many other type of stakeholders as well. And then welcome change. Again, we have already talked about it. Agile believes in harness the change even later in the solution development. What happens is in waterfall especially, if there is a change request, for example, you are building a house and you already basically design your house, your architects already design and architect the house, it becomes very tough to make changes in that design. But in the knowledge work, in the software industry, in research and development, and especially when you are doing agile way of working that is iterative in fashion, change is like something like you are very open to accept. You really don't have any issue if there is a change in the scope of a project. That's how agile works. In fact, what you do, you don't fully explore the scope in the start. No, what you do is you get high level requirements and top priority items in your product backlog, okay, or you can say scope document. And with the passage of time, you can improve this scope document or product backlog anytime. So it means that change is very easy. Whatever you want your team to develop, you can ask them, okay, this time I don't want to develop this, but I want to develop this. Okay, so change is very easy. So this agile way of working harness the change for the competitive advantage. And then deliver frequently, it talks about instead of providing the solution after a long time, we should be providing our solution in an incremental fashion. Mean, for example, after 1 week, we will be providing some features, and then next week we will be providing 2 more features. Next week we will be providing 1 more feature, so on and so forth. And then there comes work together. What do you think, Umar? What does it mean, work together?
So as a team, we collaborate closely, and we do, instead of having that department silos, or maybe thinking that there are two organizations that work. So we work together with the customer.
Yeah.
That's also collaboration, and also working together is in terms of less department handovers, and working as a team, even if a cross-functional team.
True. So it's not about collaboration within team, but also collaboration with between business and technology people. Previously, when we were working in a waterfall model or V-shaped model, there was a clear gap gap of communication. There was, like, we call it gulf of evolutions between business people and technology people. Uh, the only link between business and technology people was the requirements document. Okay, but Agile promotes that business and technology people should be working together as much as possible, in fact, on daily basis. And that's why we have this role of product owner that is representative of business people and also the part of our Agile teams. And then Yusuf, can you read next uh, four principles?
Okay. Number 5 is trust and support.
Yeah.
Number 6 is face-to-face conversation. The 7th one, working software, and the 8th one, sustainable development.
Yeah. So trust and support is we should create an environment where we can trust on our team. Instead of micromanaging them, we should generate an environment of joy where team should remain motivated, and we should show trust on our team that, okay, if we are giving a work to our team, they should be able to do it. And as a manager or agile coach or scrum master, we should be providing support to our team. We should not managing them, we should be basically leading them, and we should be providing them the support by removing the roadblocks and by providing what they need, and keep on motivating them, keep on training them and upgrading their skills. And then next point is face-to-face conversation. We understand in today's world, especially after COVID, uh, not all the teams are basically sitting together. We have seen a lot of virtual teams. Okay, and we also know the advantages of these virtual and distributed teams. I don't want to go in depth of it, and we have seen the advantage of working from home as well. But nevertheless, face to face is the best medium in terms of communication richness, communication effectiveness. If your team is sitting together in the same room, okay, in such a way that, okay, they can talk with each other like this, they can work on the same computer if they want to, okay, it helps a lot, and it helps to basically identify any issues uh, in the work. Okay. Also, because of osmotic communication, the team learn very well. Osmotic communication is basically the communication that we do because of our environment. Uh, Osmotic communication is something that we do with other people, not directly but indirectly. For example, two of our team members are talking about something and we are learning from there. Similarly, uh, if, for example, printer is not working in our room, and we are in that room, and our team member basically remove the error of that printer, we also learn how to remove that error. So face-to-face conversation is key. We promote face-to-face conversation, but again, it's not something you can say a requirement or necessary because of the virtual world. And then there comes maintain simplicity. What do you think, Sohail? What is maintaining simplicity?
It's very rightly written down there. Keep it simple. So basically, we do not want to complicate the things. We do not want to address the complexity. We want to do the things in the most easiest fashion.
Yeah.
For example, I've seen that Gantt chart is
Yep.
not advocated for Agile
Yep.
because Gantt chart complicates the things. They rather go for the Kanban board or the Agile board.
Very visual. Yeah, true. And also another thing is like if we wanna harness the change, okay, uh, it's very tough to welcome the change or make the change in a complicated solution. But if our solution is developed in a simple way, for example, in the form of like microservices architecture, or you can say in a modular form, then change in making that solution is much easier. And again, it's very important when we say that to keep it simple or make our solution simple, it really doesn't mean that it should be impacted on the functionality. The functionality should be still same. However, uh, its backend or the solution code or the solution itself should be as simple as possible so that we can harness the change very well. So that's basically KISS or keep it simple. And Soil, I would also request for your comments on sustainable development.
Basically, we want to perform in an iterative manner.
Yep.
While we are consistently producing at the
True.
same pace. That is
True.
called sustainability.
True.
Consistently producing the same thing or even more than that.
Agreed. So when we were talking about that V-shaped model of project management, we have seen that, okay, in one phase, one type of people are very busy. In next phase, other type of people are very busy. And that's we really don't want to do. What we really want is our team should be able to work in a sustainable manner on a constant pace indefinitely. But again, here it is very, very important. I mentioned last time as well in one of the talks, Umar, if you remember, that it shouldn't be the case that if we impose agile on our teams, okay, all the agile ceremonies, for example, daily stand-ups or daily or our retrospectives, etc., our team must not be thinking that, okay, this is imposed to us. What happens is people share with me that, okay, in the start we adopted agile like uh, very eagerly. Okay, we were very excited to adopt the agile, but our team, they start wearing out within 3 to 6 months. For them, daily stand-ups has become like a nightmare. Okay, it should not be the case, and we can only avoid it when we give our team an option to choose their own way of working. They should be adopting only those strategies, those ceremonies of a particular method they feel uh, if they are productive, they are adding value, they are leaving positive impact on the team. And then last 4 points. Umar, would you like to read for me? I think,
Sure.
yeah,
Those would be continuous to in attention.
yeah,
You are basically uh, put, taking care of technical excellence also. I think that's the value of
true,
this principle. This is also technical debt and also striving for technical excellence
true,
in terms of the work that we're doing, not just facing, not just interested in pleasing the customer, but the work should also have that quality in it.
true,
Um, Self-organizing teams, like the team is empowered and that they are able to achieve the mission as their team fit without being instructed or pass down instructions from the top. And they're able to formulate a plan for that sprint goal that they have. And reflect and adjust is the inspection and adaptation side of Scrum, for example. Like you are continuously looking at ways to improve yourself. So you should have a mechanism or the thought process, to reflect upon yourself, the processes, the tools, the problem, challenges, everything that's happening, and how you can improve on that. So that's basically all of it.
so basically it is talking about self-reflection, learning from our experience, especially in Agile. Normally we have retrospectives at the end of each sprint or each iteration where we focus on three things. We focus on product, how to improve the product in the upcoming iterations, how to improve our way of working, our process, and also the people, how to improve the interactions between the teams and the external stakeholders. That's basically reflect and adjust, learn from the experience and apply it in the same project. Being agile versus doing agile. What do you think, Suhail Saab, about it?
This is a very interesting diagram. I have not seen it before, but yes, of course, this is a very nice diagram. Actually, the purpose of making this diagram probably is that rather than training yourself to be agile, you rather be able to display the results in agility.
True.
You may have gone through some training and you are still not applying it, then there is no fun in it.
True. Agreed. Here also, I would like to add that what we have seen in many different companies or organizations, when they want to go for agile transformation, they go and just basically implement Scrum or maybe XP, or maybe if it is a bigger organization, they might go for scaled agile frameworks such as SAFe or Nexus or Spotify or even Discipline Agile. Okay, that's not the right way to basically do the agile, to go and implement just one method of it. The right way of doing is, firstly, be agile, uh, adopt the mindset. Okay, and the mindset that is represented with the help of 4 core values and the 12 principles that we covered in the previous 2 slides. And once uh, you accept that mindset as an individual or as a team or as an organization, after that there are basically dozens of methods available. You can choose any method. You can go and just implement it. Go and implement crystal methods, or for example Scrum method, or maybe DSDM, whatever you like it, you can go and implement it. But start your journey from this side instead of starting by implementing one method or framework. Now let's move further and look deep into how Agile work. Any questions so far? Does it make some sense, Yusuf?
I'm sorry.
Does it make some sense, whatever we covered so far?
Yes, but I'm mainly focusing on listening, so till now I don't have any comment.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. I mean, as long as like if it is making some sense, some understanding, that's fine. Is it making? Yeah, okay, cool. So let's move further and see Agile. Yeah. Number one thing, I am naming many different Agile methods. Okay. If you are very new to Agile, you might not heard about these methods. But if you know a bit about Agile, you already know many of these methods. For example, XP, Scrum, or Spotify, etc., etc. Here, what this slide says, it says that in Agile world, there is no particular standard for Agile terminologies. What does it mean? It means that, okay, we all understand that, okay, Agile is an iterative process. Few guys, for example, Scrum, they call these iterations, I'm talking about 1 to 4 weeks iterations, okay, they call it sprint. Spotify also call it sprint. XP call it iteration, and Discipline Agile also call it iteration. So here, when you hear the term iteration or sprint, mean the same thing. Okay, different methods use it differently. Similarly, the certification you are doing, that is Discipline Agile Scrum Master, DA call it team lead. Though certification name is still DA Scrum Master, but they call it team lead. XP call it coach, Scrum call it Scrum Master, and Spotify call it Agile Coach. Similarly, the meetings that we do in Agile way of working, though we didn't go in depth of it, but what we do is we do a daily meeting, normally in the morning, for example, 9:30. AM. We call it, for example, Discipline Agile call it daily coordination meeting, XP call it daily meeting, Scrum call it daily Scrum, Spotify call it huddle. Okay, huddle is maybe when you are watching sport, when team members they come together and they think for a while. That's basically the huddle. Okay, remember. There is no standard for these terminologies. So never get confused that, okay, sprint is different or iteration is different, okay, or team lead is different and scrum master is different, so on, so forth, okay. But what DA does, discipline agile, the certification you are doing, uh, normally they use those terminologies that make some sense. For example, from iteration, you can see that we are talking about iterative process. Okay, team lead means someone who is leading the team, or coordination meeting mean coordination meeting. But if someone say huddle, uh, people who use Spotify, they will understand like this. But what about others who doesn't know the Spotify? Okay, similarly. All other terminologies used by discipline agile are like common technology, common terminologies instead of unique terminologies. There is a history behind it. In 90s, when Scrum was invented, and the Scrum people, they said that, okay, we are doing new thing, so we will be using all the new terminologies. So what they did, they used rugby game terminologies in their work. So this sprint or scrum, everything is from the rugby game. Okay, but in discipline agile, we use common terminologies.
I want to make a little clarification. If
Yeah,
you can
please.
go back to the previous slide.
Yeah, please.
Actually, disciplined agile is not a methodology,
It is not.
whereas all the methods of like Scrum, XP, Crystal, they all are methodologies.
True.
Now, the interesting point about disciplined agile is that any of the methodology can be used within disciplined agile. But
Could be.
what disciplined agile has done, they have come up with a standardized terminology for disciplined agile. So, team lead is a standardized terminology for the scrum master, for the coach, for anyone who is in the equivalent role in relevant terminology, relevant methodology.
Yeah.
So we must understand that disciplined agile is not a methodology.
True.
This encompasses them all.
Yeah. So this is basically a hybrid toolkit. And as Salsa mentioned that it is not a particular method, but here one thing I would say that DA doesn't ask you to use team lead. They say that, okay, we recommend you to use team lead, but we don't prescribe you. We don't require you that if you are using discipline agile, always use the terminology team lead. You can call it like engineering lead as per your context. It's your choice. So that's the beauty of discipline agile, that it is very agnostic. It is very pragmatic. It says that you as a team should have the choice to choose your way of working, should have choice to use your terminologies. We recommend these terminologies, okay, but again, we don't prescribe it like a doctor's prescription that you must follow it. No. Yeah, thanks, Sahil. Now let's move further. Here, this particular slide is telling you, if you are very new to Agile, then what can you do? They say that make a list. Okay, make a list mean make a product backlog, or you can say that you can call it make an item list. Okay, or in Kanban you may hold about to-do list. Okay, that's first thing. Based on your requirements, make a list of work that you want to do it. And after that, size things up, mean see that how much is the size of each work. Maybe one work is bigger, other is smaller, etc., etc. Just make the sizing of that work so that you can have an idea that how much time it will take. And after that, do some priorities. Priorities mean which work you want to do first, which work has more value, or which work is very important, urgent, or which work is pretty risky, or which work has a deadline coming near. Okay, and then, for example, give priorities to the work. Okay, this is top priority, this is priority 2, this is priority 3, 4, 5. And it is recommended that the top priority item should be put at top, second priority item put on second, third on third, so on and so forth. And then start working. And when you work in iterations. Okay, mean take 1 or 2 items, okay, and then do proper planning for those 1 to 2 items and complete it in an iteration. That basically your agile. Okay, and at the end, after multiple iterations, you will be able to complete all the items in your list. So that's just a very easy way of understanding iterative way of working. Any question about it?
No, I think it's very simple.
Very simple, isn't it? Now let's watch a video on the iterative process. I hope you will be able to hear the voice. If you cannot, just let me know, okay?
The word iterate, it comes from the Latin iterare, meaning to repeat. Thus, an iterative way of working repeats itself over and over, optimizing itself each time it does. In an iterative process, work flows into the product backlog from minimum business increments and from the release roadmap. The product backlog is where the team collects all the work flowing to the team. The product owner prioritizes the product backlog, signaling to the team what work is the most important. At the start of each iteration, the team pulls the work they plan to do from the product backlog into the iteration backlog. This is a key point. The team pulls the amount of work it thinks it can get done during the iteration, not the product owner, team manager, or stakeholders. The iteration is the time box around the team's work. The team starts with the iteration planning and ends with the iteration review. Agile teams usually choose between an iteration length of 1 to 4 weeks, with 2 weeks being the most common choice. Regularly, the team meets for a coordination meeting, also called a stand-up or scrum. The stand-up helps the team coordinate and work in a quick and informal way. The iteration review ends the iteration. This review has 2 parts. It reviews the product and solution built in the iteration and the process, how the team worked together, and what got in their way. In the demo, the team showcases what they accomplished in the iteration. The demo focuses on value delivered and feedback from stakeholders. In the retrospective, the team takes time away from their busy schedule to reflect on how they worked together in the iteration. What aspects made them go faster and be successful? What aspects got in their way of reaching their goals? The team looks both internally, inside the team, and externally, outside the team. The team also lays out a plan to fix some of the points that got in their way during the next iteration. When an iteration is complete, we go back and start over with the iteration planning and pulling work from product backlog into the iteration backlog during the next planning. The Agile iterative process contains a series of artifacts and ceremonies. Artifacts are the objects produced within an iteration. Ceremonies are activities that take place during an iteration. For example, the product backlog is an artifact. It's the complete list of work required to create the product. It collects all the work flowing to the team. The iteration backlog is another artifact. That's the list of work to be completed in the current iteration, and it's supposed to be done in the order determined by the team. There are a couple more artifacts that aren't shown on our diagram. User stories capture a description of a feature from an end user perspective. A user story describes the type of user, what they want, and why. A burn-down chart is a graphic representation of how quickly the team is working through user stories. We actually touched on most of the ceremonies earlier. These include iteration planning, the coordination meeting, the iteration demonstration, or demo, and the iteration retrospective.
Okay, guys. If video gave you some idea, yeah, you are on mute, guys.
Yeah, I was saying it was probably same as understood. Like I didn't find anything new there.
Yeah, so quite a lot of information we already discussed, but here I would like Sarah, from the video and from the discussion so far, would you like to explain what you learned and what this figure is telling you in simple words?
Yeah, sure. So it explains actually the reiteration processes and what are the ceremonies and what are the catalysts that would contribute to the iteration process and how we use it as an input for the next cycle of the iteration.
Yeah, cool, awesome. So it means that when we are doing agile project management, normally we have these type of iterations that are run. In fact, in one release, there are multiple iterations, not a single iteration, but this figure is showing just one iteration. There are many terminologies you might didn't hear before. Even you are from agile background, for example, MBI, minimum business increment, so on and so forth. We will be talking more about them because these terminologies are specific with discipline agile, or you can say discipline agile promotes them. But nevertheless, we can understand agile with the help of artifacts, with the help of ceremonies. So there are multiple artifacts that could be produced while we are working as an agile. Few of them are shown here: product backlog, iteration backlog. On top of that, there could be user stories, there could be burn down charts, there could be product itself, so on and so forth. Similarly, agile could be understood with the help of multiple meetings that we conduct. We also call them ceremonies. For example, iteration planning meeting that is done in the start of each iteration on this point, and then coordination meeting that is conducted each day, and then product demo meeting that is conducted at the end, and the retrospective meeting that is conducted at the end of each iteration. Now let's move further and see what's more in it. In fact, we are going to do a small activity so that you should have more clear idea. How many of you know that in a standard agile team, we have three roles: the role of a product owner, the role of a agile coach or team lead. Okay, I'm writing it agile coach for the moment, and the team members. Everybody understand? So these three roles are very, very common. I'm not talking about discipline agile. I'm just talking about a generic agile. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I will be working as a product owner. I will be the one who will be requesting few user stories from you. And as a team, you need to do some activity. Okay. And the activity would be, these are my requirements. Okay, these are my user stories, and you are my team. You have to choose the top user stories to work at based on, you can say, based on sequence. I will be giving you 2 minutes. Please go through these user stories and tell me that which top 3 user stories you will choose in first iteration. Please take 2 minutes. So you can write down top 3 user stories as per the sequence, you can say, or top priority user stories. Yeah, 2, 3, 5, Sarah.
Yes.
Do we need to share in chat or?
I mean, you can do it, and then we will be looking at the result.
This is a personal choice, right?
Yeah, this is personal choice, but once you will read the card, it will give you some idea which user stories should be selected first. I mean, do you want to learn about Agile first, or do you want to learn about discipline Agile first, or you want to use discipline Agile to choose your way of working first? What do you think? What should be the first step? So Sarah, Yusuf, Umar, everyone wrote it? Okay, I'm showing you, and then it might make some sense to you. These are the items. Who was correct?
Sarah was right, I think.
You were
I
correct?
was correct. Yeah, myself.
Oh,
No,
awesome.
yeah. No, it's basically Sahel.
Sohail,
Yep.
is it you, Sohail?
Yep.
Awesome. See, if you look logically, firstly, you need to learn the Agile, isn't it? And then you would like to learn more about discipline Agile, a particular toolkit. And then after that, principal promises and guidelines of discipline Agile. You really cannot learn the steps for your team to choose their own way of working until you don't know Agile, discipline Agile, and its fundamental principles. Okay. Similarly, you cannot build and maintain an effective discipline Agile team until you don't know these. So it is very logical. Here, uh, the takeaway is that's how we set the priorities. That could be based on the value, could be based on the logical order, based on the risks, based on the dependencies, based on, for example, the deadlines, etc. Here, in this particular example, the cards should be selected based on logical sequence, based on dependencies. Until you don't know Agile, you might not able to understand discipline Agile. And until you don't know the basics of discipline Agile, uh, you cannot use it for your team to choose their way of working, etc. Any question about it?
No, I think I just misunderstood the fact, like the logical order was 146. Yeah, I was coming from my personal side, like which one.
Oh,
Yeah, so for me, 643 makes more sense. I think
oh,
146.
and that's all good. I mean, you might be thinking, I mean, from your own perspective. Again, there is no right or wrong answer, but for a standard viewpoint, card 146 are more logical
Yeah,
type thing. Yeah,
definitely. The
true,
starting has to be with Agile. So someone who's new obviously will want first.
true. So let's move further. And there will be many things we already discussed. We will quickly go through them so that we can shift from Agile toward discipline Agile. Agile ceremonies. Sarah, can you name the Agile ceremonies? Do you remember? Yeah.
No, I don't remember them.
Oh, that's all right. Yusuf?
I'm sorry. Do you hear me now?
Yeah. Agile meetings or Agile ceremonies. Yeah.
Yeah. After you ask this, I was searching on the documents so I can read from them because I was also not remembering.
Oh, that's all right. And I can show you here.
Mhm.
These are common agile ceremonies. Ceremonies mean when team meet together and do some work. At the time of, for example, iteration planning, they meet together and plan for the iteration. Similarly, they meet daily in the morning, okay, to talk about what they did yesterday, what they are doing today, and if there is any issue, normally 15 minutes. Again, DA doesn't ask you to do it 15 minutes, but there are many methods who ask you do it only 15 minutes, otherwise you are not doing right. Okay. Similarly, iteration demonstration, that is basically the work you did, you are showing to your customer, okay, at the end of, for example, 2 weeks. And then iteration retrospective, that is like lesson learned or self-reflection, where you as a team sit together and think about how can you improve yourself. These are key meetings that normally happen in Agile. Also, there is an other meeting, we call it backlog refinement meeting. Backlog refinement meeting is like where you go back, look on your to-do list, okay, and see that, okay, how to refine it, how to prioritize it, how to add item, how to remove item, etc., etc. But normally, this work is done by a person, we call it product owner, okay, but this is also one of the agile meeting. Here are the details for each of the meeting, but we already talked about these details. But for the sake of understanding, very important that we should go through them. Umar, would you like to go through each of the points quickly?
Yeah, I had a question about backlog grooming meeting. So people usually don't include it in ceremonies, as you said, like, but I think it's very important for any iteration plan, successful iteration. It has to be done. So any idea why it's not considered as a key or a prescribed ceremony in Agile
Uh,
backlog?
the thing is like it is a ceremony, it is a meeting, we do a lot of work there, and that's what I believe. But maybe it's because where the whole team is not involved, only mostly product owner and senior team members or agile coaches, they are mostly involved. That could be the only reason. Otherwise, it is a very important meeting.
Actually, these ceremonies are only with the perspective of the iteration,
Yeah.
not from the whole project.
Yeah, only for the sake of a particular iteration. Fully agreed. So it's up. Yeah. Now, first ceremony, iteration planning. Umar, who attends it?
Sure. Yeah, so this is basically the entire team to set all the three roles that you can find
Yeah.
in a iteration.
And
Yeah,
frequency?
at the beginning of every iteration. So before you start iteration, you can't start without having this meeting. You wouldn't know what you're doing. You wouldn't have a goal.
True.
Length of the meeting: 1 week an hour for each week of iteration. So for a 2 week sprint, you should have 2 hours of sprint planning, if you call that a sprint. Um, and the purpose is the setup. The purpose is the
In
setup
your own
for.
words. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I would say that the team would understand what work items they are picking from the backlog, what the priority is, and they should have estimates by that time, and like how much work will be done, and what's the um, estimates, and if it's even achievable within the sprint. Understanding any dependencies or even order of work, maybe sometimes that is
True.
also part of the planning, and it should tie up with the sprint goal. So if you don't have a goal from the team should have a goal for the sprint. So if they don't have a
Yeah.
goal, it's
True.
hard to understand what
I
you should.
I must add something which is not written here. The responsibility of this meeting is with the team lead, but the work of this ceremony is all performed by the team lead. PO, product owner, is optional here.
True.
Product owner
Agree.
is not required.
Not required at all. I fully agree. So basically, it's a teams meeting. It's though okay. That's another thing. But DA says that PO is a part of team. Okay, so that's why he can join. No doubt he is vice of customer, but again, he or she is also a team
Exactly.
member. That's why he can join.
The purpose of the presence of product owner is that he has to assign those no, user stories as the team selects.
Yeah, true.
So they will commit and he will accept.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In fact, PO role is more important when we are doing backlog refinement.
Exactly.
So let's move further. In coordination meeting, again, all the team can join. Okay. Normally we do it once in a daily in the start. Approximately 15 minutes. DA doesn't say do it 15 minutes. Do it as you want. You as a team need to decide. But important thing is it should be light. It should be quick. You shouldn't be wasting a lot of time on your daily meetings. Iteration demonstration, this is a point where team brings everything, whatever they develop, either completed or not completed, to the stakeholders or to the product owner or both of them, and show the work to them for the sake of acceptance or for the sake of feedback, or even they can reject the work. And normally this is done at the end of iteration. It runs for like, again, it is not a requirement that it should run only for half hour to 1 hour. It could be of any length, but this is the recommendation. Retrospective, we already talked about it. It is self-reflection or lesson learned. Now,
Eh,
yes,
Excuse me, doctor.
yeah, yeah, please, Yusuf.
In your email yesterday, you advised us to read one document before joining here. In that document, as I remember, it says for planning 8 hours per month and 4 hours per demonstration and 3 hours for retrospective each month, as I remember.
Yeah.
It is different than this one. It is special for the method, or?
Yes, yes, Yusuf. A very right point you identified. Basically, I didn't go in depth purposefully. In fact, there are few methods, especially the link I send you, the document I send you, the Scrum method. That method is a prescriptive method. Prescriptive means that they say that, okay, if you want to do Agile using Scrum way, then you must follow these things. If you will not follow it, you are not doing Scrum. That's what they say. But Discipline Agile says that we are not pure Agile, we are pragmatic. Yeah, we want to be practical. If team wants to do the retrospective for longer time, they can do it. If they want to do it for shorter time, they can do it. We don't ask you to do it 3 hours each month. So that's the difference, and we will look at it soon. Okay, guys. Now I think there are few people who wanna go for break. Okay, there is a prayer break, and here when we will be back, we will be doing an activity, and it would be again for the ceremonies, for the meetings. Okay, so if you didn't download the activity guide, please download it, and we will be back like in 10 minutes. Is it fine?
Yeah, 10 minutes
Okay.
is fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So I am,
Oh.
yeah, pausing the recording. Do remind me when we come back.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so if you go to activity sheet on page 1 to 3, there are 19 different cards, and what you have to choose is you have to choose that which card or which type of work you need to do in these ceremonies or meetings. I mean, what work for iteration planning, what you do in coordination meetings, so on and so forth. Now, instead of working in a group, I would suggest that, okay, one person work on 5 cards. So for example, I can request Sarah to work on first 5 cards, Yusuf 6 to 10, Umar 11 to 15, and Sohail 16 to 19. And just try to place in the right meeting. Can you open your activity sheets? You are on mute. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I can see it. So what do we do for 11:15? We just enter the meeting name and share in chat. Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Oh yeah, yeah. And then we will be looking on the next slide if you chose it correctly or not.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, guys, if everybody completed,
Yep.
yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So what do you think,
Let's start
guys?
from one. Let's start
Yeah,
from one.
iteration planning. Yeah. Did you put your activities rightly in iteration planning?
No, mine was from 16 to 19.
So nothing
So
is
you
there.
start with Sarah.
Yeah, so, okay, let me show you all the activities. Okay, Sarah, what were your answers? Where did you put 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Yeah, so for number one, I put it in iteration planning.
Yep.
And for number two, I put it in iteration demonstration.
Yep.
And for number three, coordination meeting.
Yep.
And for number 4, I put it in iteration demonstration.
So it is in iteration planning. We
So
can
this
have a
is
look.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all right. And number
Yeah.
5?
I put it in iteration demonstration.
Awesome. So one was that was in iteration planning.
Yeah.
Joseph, what do you think?
I put 6 to demonstration, but it was in coordination as I see.
Yeah. So it is not here, but it is
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And 7 planning, number
Oh,
7 planning.
yeah.
8 retrospective,
Mhm.
9 demonstration,
Yeah.
and 10 is under coordination.
Coordination. So only one was
Yeah.
the issue. And so you
Yeah.
can have a
Understood.
close look and can decide. Yeah. So next was Umar.
Yes, so I had 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. 11 was iteration planning.
Yeah.
12 was daily coordination meeting. 13 was iteration retrospective. 14 was iteration review. I think that's sprint Scrum
Same
term.
thing. Same thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 15 was daily coordination meeting.
True. So iteration review, product demo, iteration demonstration, all these are same thing when you show your work to the stakeholders. And then Suhail?
16 retrospective, 17 retrospective, 18 demonstration, 19 planning.
Awesome. So yeah, it looks like we did pretty good job. Thanks a lot, guys. And now let's move to Agile Artifacts. There could be many artifacts, depends, but some of the key artifacts are shown here. The product backlog. Product backlog is your to-do list, okay, your scope, or you can say that items are the items that you need to complete or requirements you need to complete, product backlog. And normally the product owner, who is voice of the customer, or you can say customer's proxy, who represent the business people, they take care of product backlogs. And next is iteration backlog. Iteration backlog is, you can say, a subset of product backlog. If product backlog consists of 20 items, normally iteration backlog consists of, for example, top 2 to 3 items on which we are going to work in that particular iteration. Okay. Iteration backlog is normally managed by the team. And then there comes burn down chart. It is one example of artifacts. The purpose of burn down chart is just to see your performance as a team. Guys, remember, in Agile, we believe in team performance than individual performance. What burn down chart tell us? It tell us that, okay, for example, if we develop a burn down chart for user stories mean the requirements of the users, okay. uh, in the start, we had, like, for example, 20 user stories in the start. Okay. After first iteration, if we completed, for example, 3 user stories, it will become 17. And next iteration, we completed 5, it become, for example, 12. And as we keep on doing, our number of user stories keep on reducing because we are completing them. So this is a burn down chart. Similarly, there are many other uh, tools that tell us how to measure team performance. For example, burn up charts. For example, CFD is cumulative flow diagram, etc., etc. And this is one end. On the other hand, the same type of charts, for example, burn down charts, not only could be used for user stories, can also be used for example, to see risks. For example, to see to remove the technical debt, or you can say to remove the bugs in the solution, or remove the quality issues from the solution. So burn down chart is used for the team performance measurement, how good team is performing. There are many other ways. Okay, here only one example is shown to you. So this is one example of artifact. And then user story. We talked about user story before. These are basically requirements written from user perspective. For example, as a learner, I want to complete DS Scrum Master course, okay, so that I can serve my team better to choose their way of working. This is one example of user story, but again, this user story is pretty big, pretty big that include many small user stories, but nevertheless, requirements from user perspective. Now let's move further. Uh, Here I am not commenting what is this because this is too early. Yes, Umar.
So the problem is that this is very different from the typical artifact that we see in Scrum.
Oh, true.
So
In
they
Scrum,
only had
yeah,
product backlog, sprint backlog, and the product
product.
increment.
Yeah, product
So
increment.
it's something that discipline agile is sort of disrupting with your traditional knowledge, I would say over here.
Well, again, when we talk about Scrum, Scrum basically prescribe you three artifacts, as Umar mentioned. They call product backlog, sprint backlog, and the product itself, or you can say product increment that we deliver to our stakeholders. But nevertheless, uh, when we say artifacts, artifact could be anything that is like that could be a document, that could be uh, a list, a file, or even the solution itself. That's why here we gave many different examples as well.
Any reason why the product itself or the product increment is not mentioned as an artifact? Like
No, no, there is no reason. Product increment is a artifact, and it is very, very important artifact. In fact, that should be our primary measure of success. It is artifact that is produced as a result of our work. So that's why.
Basically, artifacts are the documentations.
In fact, like the term Shulsab, as you said, but artifact is like comparatively bit broader term. It could be in any form, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, it could be like in the form of like charts, in the form of models, instead of just documents. In the form of
Any kind of
True.
document. When you say product increment, that probably means that there is a document of approval. The definition of done has been completed, so that becomes the artifact.
Yeah, even product solution mean that piece of code, for example, is also an
Of course.
artifact. True.
Yeah.
Okay, now here I am not going in depth of this slide. The reason is we didn't explore DA toolkit, but here they are saying that, okay, under explore scope, okay, we talk about artifacts, but at the moment it's not a right time. So let's move further and watch this video on writing effective user stories or writing the requirements from user perspective.
User stories are tools used in Agile to capture a description of a feature from the end user's perspective. They help to achieve cross-team clarity on what to build, for whom, why, and when. User stories are customer-centric. They start with the customer in mind. And they're phrased from the user standpoint instead of from the systems. User stories are lightweight. They are easy to write and change, and they easily break into smaller pieces. User stories are collaborations. Anyone can write a user story, but the team can't work on it until they understand it. User stories help build quality into the solution. They use acceptance criteria and a definition of done to ensure quality. And each story is reviewed at the end of the iteration and accepted or rejected, so we don't have to go rethink it over and over. So, what's the criteria for a good user story? This mnemonic offers some solid guidance. Good user stories are independent of other stories. This makes it easier to plan and deliver the work. Good user stories are negotiable. This makes collaboration easier. and it makes it easier to include feedback and input from the delivery team and others. Good user stories are valuable. They have value for the end user. Good user stories are estimable. That is, we can estimate its size to determine whether it's small, medium, or large. This makes planning and delivering easier. Good user stories are small. This makes it easier to estimate, plan, and delivery. As a rule, a good user story is anywhere from half a day to 2 days' work. And finally, good user stories are testable. They can be tested to demonstrate that we did what we said we would.
I hope you got more idea about user stories. So in the upcoming slides, again, we are exploring user stories in more detail. This is one example of user story. Yusuf, would you like to read this example?
Yeah, okay. As a participant, I want to learn how to write user stories so that I can use them in my own team setting to enable our agility.
So here, 3 things are important. The role, you are a participant, you could be a functional manager, could be engineer or anyone. And then next is what, okay? And what is, I want to learn how to write user stories. And the last thing is the reason why you want to learn it, okay? So that I can use them in my own team settings to enable our agility. So that's example user story. And then here comes J or nay point. J or nay is something you just need to say yes or no, okay? Sarah, can you please read it for me?
User stories are tools used in Agile to capture a description of a feature from the end user's perspective.
Yeah, so J or nay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. So let's go to next one. And so would you like to read?
User stories are only written by the product owner. Nay.
Yeah, so it could be written by anyone, could be functional managers, could be even by the team as well, especially the technical user stories. And Umar?
User story is independent, valuable, and complex. Nay, because it should not be complex.
It shouldn't be complex. In fact, if it is a complex user story, we need to decompose them so that they shouldn't become complex. They should basically follow this invest thing that we already talked about. Now, estimating user stories. It is very important when we.
Sorry, I have a question on one of the questions that was given to Sweta. So it said that the story can only be written by the product owner. I understand that's a practice. We write user stories ourselves also, and team also writes. But in that Scrum guide I was going through it, they said anyone who wants to add anything to the product owner, they should convince the product owner to add it to the product backlog. That was in the Scrum guide. It was something that I just read a little while before this training started. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
was thinking that is that something that's done in Scrum specifically, and we're saying that anyone can write.
Oh, yeah.
I misunderstood.
Again, Scrum is very prescriptive. They just push for the pure agile thing instead of pragmatic agile thing. So you really cannot wait if there is a dependency or there is a risk. You wait for product owner to approve it. You can write the user stories.
No. I think he has mistook the whole thing. A product owner is the owner of all the user stories. That doesn't mean that he writes them all.
Yeah.
The user stories can be written by anyone, by any stakeholder, by any customer, by anyone. And those user stories are actually in unrefined form. Then team and under product owner, team and Scrum Master and all those guys, they sit together and refine them. And once they refine them, then they become actual user stories, refined backlog, it is formed, and all the user stories, and then prioritized and all that.
So during backlog refinement, we do all those activities.
So your writing is basically meant as refinement. So then I will say, yeah, refinement is that doable by multiple people. But if I assume writing is as in you're adding something to the product backlog, so it becomes part of your product. It is aligned with the product mission, and it is something that that can be qualified to be added in the product backlog. That's
And
something that
anyone
the
can add.
product owner.
Okay,
Okay.
here again, there are there is the thing when we talk about lean or Kanban, okay, or even talk about discipline agile, they really don't call it product backlog, because like product backlog, this give this impression that it will have product features only, okay, or maybe the risks that are associated with those features, okay. But on the other side, uh, we, DA call it work items, okay, and lean or Kanban, they call it item list. This item list is something that is like broader than just product backlog. It can include many other things, many other items, not only features, risks, but also the bugs, to remove the dependencies, etc. So it will have everything in this item list. So that, for example, if there are bugs or bugs related technical stories that are normally written by the teams, not by the product owner.
Product owner doesn't write anything at all. That is my point. Product owner is in charge of all the stories, and a lot many other people, they write it,
Yeah,
and
true.
he puts them, he approves them and puts them in the box.
True. He basically manage product backlog. And here, next step is when we talk about the user stories or the work that needs to be done in an iteration. Next step is we have to calculate how much or what would be the level of effort that will be required to complete each user story. There are many different ways. Okay, story points are one of the common way. Uh, I'm skipping this slide because it is just telling that in DA toolkit, in this section where we do the planning for the release, we choose the estimation techniques. Uh, let's talk more about estimation. As I told you that it's a level of effort that we can write it in story points, or few guys even write them in hours. There are some challenges. For example, when we are estimating, we might go in too much of detail or precision. But in Agile, normally we really don't go into precision as we used to do in PMP, where we do like and we do estimate like 3-point estimates, etc. Okay, and sometimes while we are estimating, we start designing the work, or sometimes another challenge is like people feel that, oh, it's too much of work, we cannot commit it within a sprint. So these are the main challenges while we are doing the estimation activity. And here there are basically few facts about estimates. Remember that our estimates are best guesses. Okay, they are not, they shouldn't be something very, very precise. However, what happens over the period of time as our iterations keeps on going, initially, for example, we are, if I talk about user stories, initially we are saying that, okay, we will complete 5 user stories. Okay, with the passage of time, we start knowing that, okay, can we complete 5 user stories in each iteration or not? Here again, story points is right example, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm saying user stories. Okay, what we do over the period of time, we learn that, okay, how many user stories or story points we can complete under each iteration. Okay, so initially it is a best guess, okay, based on our current information, but with the passage of time, as we keep moving, we keep refining it. And then that's why when we are using one of the metrics called team velocity, okay, initially this velocity is pretty volatile. I mean, maybe in the first 3 iterations of a product, uh, we we have, for example, 18 story points completed in first iteration, then 22, then, for example, 15. But with the passage of time, we get more and more accurate in finding that, okay, what would be the velocity of our team. For example, we are completing around like 18 story points in each iteration. Again, there need not to be a fixed number, but our uh, guess or our estimation refined with the time. Now, estimation way, how to basically estimate it. Let's look at it with the help of this small animation. What we normally do is we choose a user story, okay, and then what we do, we use a comparative technique. We call it t-shirt sizing. I am not going in depth of it, but just telling you, for example, we say that, okay, uh, these user stories are small, these are medium, these are large, okay. But again, when normally we do sizing when we are doing high level planning, but when we go for iteration planning, we do more refined techniques. We call it Fibonacci series. A few of them call it Fibonacci series as well. And we use a game called planning poker. Okay. Anyone who didn't hear about planning poker? Yusuf, do you know about planning poker?
This is the first time.
This is the first time. So a
Yeah.
few of you might already heard about it. Planning poker is based on Fibonacci series. Okay, that is our natural growth pattern, and it is based on, okay, addition of previous two numbers. For example, 1, and then next number would be combination of 1 plus 1. Next number would be combination of 1 plus 2. Next number will be combination of 2 plus 3. Next number will be combination of 3 plus 5. Next number will be combination of 8 plus 5. So on, so forth. Okay, so this is basically our Fibonacci series. Based on that, what we do, we estimate the size of each, estimate the level of effort required for each user story. And normally we call these points as story points. Okay, so let's look at it. Here I am saying, okay, for the sake of brevity, I'm saying small, medium, and large. But in fact, this thing is better written in the form of these story points. So let's have a look. What we did, whatever stories were there, we estimated them, and then we determined that, okay, few stories are very small size, and we just need one story point to complete. Again, story points are more broader or generic term than number of hours. We are not saying that it will take 1 hour to complete or 1 day to complete. Okay, here we are using story points so that we should be flexible. And then there are 3 user stories who are not very small but still small. So you can call them very small. This is small, who can complete in 2 story points. And then there are medium size stories which will take 5 story points, large size and very large size, for example. When we segregate our user stories in this particular form, it give us quite a lot of advantage. It help us to compare the user stories with each other. Okay, which one is bigger, which one is smaller, etc. It also help us to compare the stories with same story points. Mean, if we chose 2 for this, 2 for this, 2 for this, did we choose it rightly or not, etc. So this is one of the estimation technique that we use when we are basically sizing and estimating the work or level of effort required in each iteration. Did I make some sense, Sarah?
Yes.
Do you use any of these techniques at workplace, Sarah?
Maybe our product development team, but
Yeah.
not basically in sales, but we interfere basically on how they're working and how they're improving their products.
True, agreed. In fact, there is one thing called value streams. We might be able to touch it, where the role of marketing or technical marketing teams is very, very important. While we talk about delivering value to our customer. At the moment, I am not touching that bit. Here, our main focus is on the product development or solution development. We are not talking about next stages, the whole life cycle of a product. No, we are only talking about this bit, the development component of product life cycle. Okay, knowing when story is done. In fact, mm, we estimated it our team is working on it, okay, at the end of the sprint, it is expected that we will complete multiple user stories. How can we determine if our user story is completed or user story is done? What are the ways that we can use it to find out that the work we did is fulfilling the requirement or not? Two techniques are used: acceptance criteria and definition of done. These both are very close related terminologies, but there is a subtle difference. The difference is acceptance criteria is normally written for each user story separately. Okay, for each user story, we write a acceptance criteria. On the other side, definition of done is a checklist, okay, that might be helpful to confirm that, okay, our set of user stories are completed or not. Mean uh, each each item of definition of done or some of the items of definition of done checklist could be used to confirm for each user story. So both of these techniques are used. Okay. uh, any confusion between two?
I want to clarify one thing.
Yep.
Definition of done includes the acceptance criteria plus some more requirements from the
Yes.
company.
Yeah, so I'm going to look at it in the upcoming slides. Thanks, Will. Now, here is a bit more about acceptance criteria. The point you mentioned, I'm coming back to it. Acceptance criteria is used to see that if our stories are completed or not. They have its benefits. Uh, it helps when we have acceptance criteria. It helps the team to understand the user story well. And also when we are writing some tests, for example, user acceptance tests, or we are using some solution development techniques, for example, behavior driven development. Okay. uh, it helps to write the user stories in a right way. Behavior driven development is basically how our solution will behave, okay, how it will function. Risk, but there is a risk. I told you each user story has one acceptance criteria, isn't it? That's what I told. Issue is uh, there are many quality requirements, especially quality of service requirements. Uh, what are quality of service requirements, Sohail?
I don't know. I'm
That's
sorry.
all right. No, no, that's all right. So quality of service requirements are also called NFRs, non-functional requirements. Okay. What are non-functional requirements? These are the requirements that are not our features, but quality of those features. For example, usability, speed, robustness, operability, scalability. Okay, all these are examples of quality of service or NFRs. Now, the thing is, when we are writing acceptance criteria for each user story, it's tough to write quality of service components in this acceptance criteria. The reason is, for example, scalability. You know, scalability could be common thing, or we call it cross-cutting item, not only for user story 1, but 2, but 3, but all of user stories. Similarly, operability or reusability or reliability or speed or responsiveness, all these could be applicable not only one user stories, but multiple user stories. It means that acceptance criteria itself is not enough to determine that, okay, a user story is done or not. In fact, what we do, we use some other techniques as well. We call it explicit list. I am not going in depth of it, but the purpose I want to show is when you are writing acceptance criteria, you must be thinking about quality of service requirements. You might not be able to fully cover quality of service requirements in the acceptance criteria, and that's the risk. Okay. Now let's move further. This is a user story. As a participant, I want to learn how to write user stories so that I can help my team. Now, what will be the acceptance criteria? Acceptance criteria could be we understood the user story concept, and we have already watched a video on user stories. Okay, so this is the acceptance criteria. Very simple. I'm talking about this user story where we are learning user story. Okay, on the other side, when we talk about definition of done, okay, definition of done, as we already discussed, that it's a checklist. Okay, that could be used for example, for all the user stories. And as Suhail mentioned, definition of done also include acceptance criteria. Okay, let me show you here. This is definition of done, DOD. Okay, uh, the top item, as Suhail mentioned, acceptance criteria is part of it. The acceptance criteria are met, and also many other criteria are met. Okay, then we can say, okay, so this is, we can say that our user story is done. Okay, uh, any question about it?
No, I think I just have a comment.
Yeah,
So
please.
definition of done is very important because in the software world, you can have a more other thing also to this list, like that the user story should be deployed in a certain environment. It should be available, and those sort of things. So that's also part of your definition of
True, true.
done. You
Agree.
could complete something, it's not tested by QA, or it's been tested, but it's not been reviewed by the users, for example, user acceptance testing or all that. That's also part of your
Yeah, I
definition.
agree, Umar. And basically, again, this is quality of service or non-functional requirements. Okay. For example, solution should be deployable on multiple platform, etc. Here, there are few things we should keep in mind. Quality of service requirements are cross-cutting, as I mentioned earlier, across different functions or user stories. What happen is sometimes developers forget, uh, don't forget, but they do. Uh, they say that, okay, we will take care of non-functional requirements at the end or something like that. But it becomes very, very difficult to implement non-functional requirements at the end. It means you should be choosing the right ways of definition of done. It should include not only acceptance criteria, but you can also use explicit list of quality of service requirements, the whole list, that it should fulfill these requirements as well as shown here. Okay. Uh, Now, iteration demonstration. Uh, what is iteration demonstration, Yusuf?
It is the presentation of increment to product owner. Can
Yeah.
you call like that?
Yeah, exactly. Product owner, or there could be some other stakeholder as well. Okay.
Yeah.
In DA toolkit, it is covered in this section, but I'm not going in depth of it because we will discuss it in next week. Purpose of iteration demo, basically key purpose is to show the work we did, okay, uh, to show the functionality of the work we did. Also confirm that whatever we develop, not only it is developed, it is consumable as well. Mean stakeholders would like to consume it. It shouldn't be something that okay, work is completed but of no use. Okay, and it should be giving some value. Also gathering feedback from stakeholders. This feedback that comes from stakeholder help us to make go forward decision. Go forward decision basically talk about, okay, should we keep on doing as we are doing, or we should change our direction a bit, or we should go back because we didn't do anything good. We should pivot back and take another direction. This is the case when our work is rejected by the stakeholders. So either stakeholder accept our work, or they provide us feedback for improvement, or they reject it straight away. So here the same concept is shown. When we show the demo, if it is not fulfilling the definition of done, it needs to go back to product backlog so that we can improve it. If it works, now let's release it release it into production so that our customers or users can use it. Now I have few questions. Sarah, do your team conduct demos?
Yes, we do.
Oh, that's awesome. And what do you do in those demos?
We take the customer through, a short journey on how a certain module is functioning, what are the features, how it will contribute, and the success measures of their operations.
True.
Yeah.
And it's very key that when we are talking about the success measures, we should be thinking about the customer, not about team.
Yes.
And then here is a question: can a demo include unfinished stories or not? Yeah, what do you think, Umar?
No, it should not. It should only have stories which are completed.
Only for the feedback purposes. If we have time available, we can use them for feedback purposes.
Okay. Again, something different from what I read in the Scrum guide.
Yeah, so Scrum is something only
So
works there.
I got sort of polluted by it. I
Oh
would
yeah,
say
yeah,
because
I understand.
yeah, there was the. I
That's
haven't read it in a while, but there were some new things also in it. So.
true. So basically here we are challenging those rhetoric things that Scrum has introduced in our minds. Do it this way or otherwise.
But
I
interestingly speaking, I have done it myself. So we usually have had even reviews where we included stories which were not then deployed. Like for example, the client was okay with that. So that has also been fine because they understand that the work is very close to being deployed. There was some last minute hitch or anything,
true,
and they
true.
even allow you to do it in the next first or second day of the next sprint. So because that's
Yeah,
a pragmatic approach, right? Why you want
pragma
to not show
yeah,
work that you
exactly. Yeah, true. So you can tell them, okay, these would be deployed, or or maybe some hardening work is done, or some testing needs to be completed, and that's all. In fact, Scrum guys, especially, they believe in 1 and 0. Okay, either this way, either Scrum way or no way. In fact, there is a lot of gray area in the middle that is more pragmatic as per the context of the situation, as per the reality of the actual work. So we need to come out of 1 and 0s.
I have a point here,
Yes,
and
please.
that is in even in Agile, we can present unfinished stories. There is a scenario. If your story is, say, 10% complete, there is no reason for the team to demonstrate it at all. But if it is, say, 90% complete, so it can be presented as if it can be broken down into two parts, 90% and 10%. 90% will be approved and 10% will be put back into the backlog.
True, true.
Yeah, so we do that all the time, right? So one of the
Yep.
strategies that we find during stand-ups, when we see any impediment and we see any blockers, we try to split the story and deliver that part of the value that is deliverable. So
True,
you're right
true.
about
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
That's one strategy.
True. And then there comes uh, information. How can you keep your team, your stakeholders informed that what's going on? Normally we use the information radiators, and those could be automated, those could be uh, high touch, could be manual. Okay, it totally depends on you. Automated dashboards are very common nowadays, and Discipline Agile also promotes those automated dashboards. There is no issue at, at a team level to have high touch, low tech tools, but if we have like automated dashboards like that are provided by many providers like Jira or Azure or Amazon, we can use them. The purpose is to keep everyone informed, to keep the transparency, to identify the bottlenecks, so on and so forth. So uh, let's watch a video on information radiators and how can they help us to inform everyone.
90% of all the information transmitted to the brain is visual. Not surprisingly, Visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than text. We are wired to automatically interpret patterns for instant comprehension with almost zero effort. Want to see some examples? What do you see right away? A different shape. And with this one, a different size. And with this one, a different color. That brings us to an information radiator. An information radiator is a type of visual control that displays project information in a place where passersby can see it and get information without having to ask questions. The far left column of this example starts with the project charter. This lists the project's primary objectives, key features, and cautions and risks. It also lists those who have key roles in the project's completion: the product owner, the architecture owners, and the team lead. Finally, it provides a glossary of project terms which may not be widely known. The next column of this example indicates any impediments and blockers that are slowing or preventing progress on the project. This includes both known and outstanding blockers, and those that have been mitigated or completed. The bottom of this column provides a convenient place for the color coding to reside. In this case, green for done, blue for started, red for blockers, and yellow for dependencies. The large center section of this example shows the product backlog. It also shows the iteration backlog, the specific tasks being worked on by members of the team in the current iteration. The far right section of this example shows the iteration burn down, the rate at which the team is burning through its customer stories. This can tell the team whether they are on track, ahead, or behind the committed work. It also shows the release burn up. This monitors progress of release commitment iteration by iteration and gives the team a projection of when they will meet their release goal. And finally, it shows working agreements. These agreements detail how the team will work together and what they can expect of each other. Of course, this is just an example. Your information radiator should be customized to meet the needs of your team.
So I hope you got an idea of a standard type of information radiator. But again, it's your team context, your organization's context that determines that what should be on your information radiator. And again, it's not compulsory that we should have like similar items throughout our projects. Few items could be updated with the period of time. But few items are very, very important. For example, our product vision, it is just like a North Star for us that guide us. So product vision, or you can represent, you can call it project charter or elevator statement, whatever you want to name it. It is just like a North Star for us. It should be there, and rest of the things you can put them as per your need. Any question about information radiators?
I missed some of the video, but it seemed like the boards that we have. What's missing? Like normally, if we look at Jira or any other board, it has the iteration part of it. But what would you think is missing in that regularly like we use? Is there something that has to be added on top that to be considered as radiator?
Well, yeah, I mean, as a team, you need to decide about it. It could include your task board even, and that may include the things like to-do list and in progress items and what is done, etc. It also have like the iteration part of it, as you said. So it totally depends how your team want their information radiators. And again, they could be high touch, low tech tools. Okay, they could be automated dashboards, like as you said, Jira or Azure or etc. I think we call it Azure DevOps, ADO. They normally provide this type of dashboards. GR time. Yusuf.
Agile is just for software development teams. I think no.
Yeah.
No.
And then, Sahil sir.
Agile is based on system thinking. Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so let's see the answer. Answer is no. The reason is,
Why?
okay, uh, it is lean that is based on system thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, agile, uh, no doubt there are many overlaps between lean and agile. Few of the people think that the basis of agile is lean, but again, the thing is, lean is the thing that is based on system thinking, not agile. However, there are many components, for example, workflow. Okay, this is common in lean and agile, where we basically try to optimize our workflow. But system thinking is more about looking at the system in a holistic way, not only just in components, so that we can optimize this system. That is more like lean, where we think about reducing delays. Uh, that was end of our session. Before moving to our next session, there are three questions I would love to ask. First one is from Umar. What are 2 points about Agile that stood out for you?
When you say agile, like the traditional agile, everything agile so far that we've learned,
Yeah,
or
from this session, basically.
from this session.
Yeah.
I, let me think about it. Can you give me some 2 minutes?
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah,
can.
yeah.
Sure.
So just think about those 2 points that basically mean your concept was a bit different, and now you think that, okay, now I learned this could be a better way of.
I mean, most of the things I knew already. If I have to pick 2 new things that I've seen is that the definition of product backlog, sorry, the Scrum artifacts or the sprint, the Agile artifacts has changed a little bit with discipline Agile. That's something I noticed. The other thing I think was also similar, right? You can demonstrate unfinished stories. So previously
True,
it wasn't formalized like that way. So we used
true.
to obviously show because it was something that. So I think that is different.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, agreed. And Yusuf, what's the one point that's still puzzling you?
Puzzling. Yani I can say, as per my current experience, the how to apply coordination meetings in a team where personalizing it is really too difficult to apply that. Yani even for simple updates or simple coordination meetings, we are how can I say, we are consuming too much energy to convince people to join. But I don't know how to explain them this approach to convince them to join a coordination meeting, just 15 minutes per day. Yeah.
True. Again, here, very, very important point I really want to make is, if you talk about Scrum, if you are using Scrum, they will say that, okay, if you want to do Agile, do it 15 minutes meeting. But if you talk about discipline agile, what they say is, they say that, okay, guys, we are providing you the strategies, we are providing you the options. Okay, one of the option is daily meeting or daily Scrum meeting, but again, it will be in the hand of your team. If they think that daily meeting is productive, they can go for daily meeting. But if they think that, okay, instead of daily meeting, they prefer alternate days meeting, mean Monday and then Wednesday and then Friday, it's all right. There is no issue in it, because your team should given this choice, because your team is self-organized team. No one should push you to go for daily meeting. That's very important in discipline agile.
Yeah.
And then Sarah, what's one idea from this discussion that will help you to share with your team?
I think the information radiator, the board, I like the idea because sometimes we're struggling to have everyone on the same point, on the same page in terms of what's going on in this
True.
project, especially that we have different stakeholders. We have customer success managers, we have product developers, we have solution architects and sales
True.
manager. So I think it's a good tool.
True. And also, I would like to comment here, these information radiators for different teams could be different. It's not compulsory to have the same uh, information radiator for all the teams consistent throughout organization. No, because each team is unique. Each team has its unique context. So as per their context, team should be given this empowerment, what they want on their information radiator. Uh, and that was end of this session. We are going for a quick 5 minutes break so that people can offer prayer. And once we will be back, we will have 1 hour left and we will be covering uh, our next session. Is it fine?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
So welcome to lesson 2, that is Agile and Beyond. And here what we are going to do is we would be looking what's the current status of Agile and how Agile is doing at the moment. We understand that previously it was a buzzing word, then it has become tested and proven practice. But uh, what people, especially the thought leaders or alliances or the coaches or the scrum master, how they are treating Agile, is it beneficial or not? That's what we will be looking at in the first component. Then we will move towards disciplined Agile. Uh, I believe that whatever we have learned in the previous session, for few of you, it was like just a repetition, and but we had to do it because like we have like students from mixed background. But in this session, when we will be talking about discipline agile, there will be many new things, many new learnings for everyone. And we will see that, okay, what is discipline agile, what is its mindset, how it promotes guided continuous improvement, uh, what are the different roles on discipline agile, what are the life cycles that discipline agile supports. We will also be looking on uh, the choices of agile practices that discipline agile provides. And at the end, we will be looking on DA toolkit. Now, uh, guys, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask question if you don't understand anything. Okay, and I would love to repeat. Firstly, let's talk about Agile is showing its age. We have seen uh, we have seen like even in the first session that, okay, Agile Manifesto, it was written for software industry. Now it is being accepted for all different industries. So it means that Agile Manifesto needs to be updated. Uh, Updated in a sense that, okay, we can use better terminology. That's not enough. In fact, the actual issue that has happened is, as per Malton Fowler is one of the thought leader who wrote Agile Manifesto. Okay, uh, according to Malton Fowler and many other thought leaders in Agile, they said that the time we basically write the manifesto, our purpose were multifold. One of the purpose was we believe in self-organizing teams. Okay, and other purpose was we should be believing more in technical excellence, etc. Okay, but what happened is after Agile Manifesto, when we had a lot of different methods like Scrum, XP, etc., etc., their thought leaders, their founders, what they did is instead of making teams empowered, making teams self-organized, uh, what they did is they start pushing their developed methods to the people. And we have seen this, for example, IC Agile, for example, Scrum, for example, Nexus or Safe. What they do, uh, they tell the people what to do. That is not agile. The agile is you should guide the people how to choose their own way of working. But they are doing it. Okay, why they are doing it? Because there is real money. Real money is when you are basically make yourself indispensable. When you will tell the people do it in this way, otherwise there is no other way to do the agile or agile transformation. And same is the people in the business, in the operations, if they don't know agile, what they do is they say that, okay, what other people are doing, or for example, what our competitors are doing, instead of looking on their context. Do they really need agile? Do they really need the agile transformation? What is the current context of their organization? They just go and try one method or the other. Then in result, uh, most of the agile transformation efforts they get failed. Once agile coach or consultant they just leave the company's door, or just leave the office, people start going back to the same thing. They don't want to do daily scrum, they don't want to do the retrospective. As Yusuf was mentioning, it's very tough to encourage people to come for the daily stand-ups. The reason, because it was told to you, it was not your team who decided that we are going for like daily scrum, or we are going for like alternative day coordination meeting, etc. Okay, so Martin Fowler call it agile industrial complex, a complex that is established just for the sake of money by thought leaders, by alliances, by scrum masters or agile coaches. So if we really want agile survivor for a long time, we must need to challenge agile industrial complex. We should come out of method prison. We call it method prison or method jail, or you can also call it framework prison or framework jail. Instead of following frameworks and methods like zombies without thinking anything, we should be empowered. We should choose our own way of working as an agile team. So that's basically self-organization. And on the other side, technical excellence. You know that developers, they really hate Scrum or any other method that is imposed to them. You can talk with the developer, they will tell you that, oh, this was imposed by CEO or our program managers or portfolio manager. We really don't need Scrum. We really don't want to do daily Scrum or daily retrospective, etc. The thing is, uh, the reason behind it, instead of making their life easy, they are putting an extra burden of those ceremonies, those meetings, those artifacts on these people. So they start hitting it. And another issue is it is not helping the developers or the engineers or testers with the technical support, technical guidance where it is required. For example, they don't talk about testing strategies, they don't talk about architecture, they don't talk about basically best practices for development like pair programming or mob programming or agile modeling or maybe refactoring or maybe test driven development or executable specs. No information, no guidance is given. The whatever guidance is given, that we study in the last session. For example, daily scrum, coordination meetings, retrospectives, different type of artifacts. Product backlog should be artifact, should be as artifact or not. What about product? Should it be artifact or not? So the discussions or debates are on useless things instead of uh, on technical excellence support. Discussion is around on doing one type of ceremonies or the other. So that was the issue that also not only Malton Fowler, but many other thought leaders, like for example, discipline agile people, they identified and they basically try to rectify this issue. As a result, discipline agile was developed back in 2009. Initially, it was used only for IBM for 3 years, and after that, it got open for the general public as well. Two thought leaders, Scott Embler and Mark Lyons. These were the guys who basically developed uh, this toolkit that provide you the options, that provide you the choices of strategies to choose your way of working as a team. Now, I think it's a video. Let's watch this video and try to understand discipline agile. Any question? Or any comment? Okay, awesome. Let's watch this video. Sorry. Oh my gosh, why it is going? Yeah, here it is.
There's a reason most agile organizations don't see the results they expect. Their agile doesn't have any, well, agility. Because true business agility comes from freedom, not frameworks. This is disciplined agile, a hybrid of the world's leading practices and methods that provides straightforward guidance to enable you to choose your way of working. It's a people-first, learning-oriented, hybrid agile toolkit that will enable you to effectively combine strategies from Scrum, Agile modeling, extreme programming, Kanban, Agile data, SAFe, and many others, so you can tailor and scale based on the situation you face. You'll be able to look beyond prescriptive, agile frameworks and get better results and reach true business agility faster.
So that's pretty much self-explanatory. Any question about it? So when we will be learning discipline agile, we should be in more pragmatic mindset instead of like, okay, should we do this activity or not? No, discipline agile doesn't prescribe anything. It wants you to choose your way of working as per your need, as per your team and organization's need. So here a formal definition of DA is given. It is a toolkit that is agnostic and hybrid. Agnostic means that it doesn't prescribe anything like Scrum or SAFe, and also it is hybrid that is based on a lot of research and heavy weight lifting by Scott Embler and Mark Lyons by understanding all different methods and choosing the different different strategies and providing you in the form of a toolkit, very comprehensive toolkit. I will be going to show you that toolkit, the whole landscape, and you will be amazed to see that how comprehensive it is. It is not only from Agile, but also from Kanban, also traditional techniques, etc., etc. Discipline agile, if we really want to understand discipline agile, we can understand it from four different views. The top view is discipline agile mindset, and that mindset is based on principles, promises, and guidelines. Three other views are DA people. Okay, when I talk about DA people, I am talking about roles and responsibilities, team structures, different roles, including primary, supporting roles, enterprise roles, etc. And the third thing or third view of understanding discipline agile is workflow or the life cycle support or the choices that provided by DA. Okay, different type of teams, different type of life cycles would be more appropriate. Again, it would be your decision which life cycle you want to choose. That's a third view. And the fourth view is the practices, agile practices that are shown with the help of, that are basically foundation bricks of the toolkit. Okay, these practices are gathered together in the form of process outcomes, or we call them process goals. We will be looking all of them later. At the moment, our focus is on discipline agile mindset, and we will be looking on principal promises and guidelines in more detail in the upcoming slides. Firstly, let's have a look on principles. I would request Sarah to go through these principles for me.
Delight customer, be awesome, context counts, be pragmatic, choice is good, optimize flow, organize around products and services, enterprise awareness.
So, delight customer. There is an old concept of quality in PMP or in PMBOK world that it never exceed what is required. But here in this world of Agile, they say that not only meet the need of the customers, but exceed them so that you can make them delighted, so that they should keep committed with you, they should be retained with you. I remember once I was staying in Bangkok and the motel where I was staying, when I first reached there, all other things were there, like fantastic. And I was pretty satisfied. My all the needs were fulfilled. There was no queue, no issues in registration, etc. But the good thing is, once I went there, they upgraded my room to a better room, and also they offered me no, not Philippines, Thailand's mangoes. Okay. And they were like super tasty. And I was like, oh, delighted full time. We might not get the same thing again and again, but whenever we get it, we are very delighted. And I would love to go back to that motel if I get a chance. So that's basically delighting customer. Uh, Not only fulfilling their need, but also delight them. And the next is, yes, Umar.
In PMP, we call that gold plating.
Oh,
So you're saying that gold plating is good.
yeah, basically the thing is now things are changing, especially why gold plating is okay. The reason is welcome change. That's the main reason. Now scope is not fixed. Now scope is changing. So that's why gold plating is not a concept anymore. In fact, when we talk about our next level of agile, we call it hyper agile software development lifecycle. They say that we love to have gold plating. We really don't have any issue in gold plating. If needed, we can do it as long as our customer are delighted. Yeah, and be awesome. That's the next step. What do you think, Sarah? What does it mean, be awesome?
I think that we always have to be one step ahead of the expectations of the client, maybe.
Yeah. So that is more about delight customer. When we say be awesome, it is more about like as an individual and as a team, we and even as an organization, we want to be awesome team, awesome organization or individuals with whom our stakeholders, our customers want to work. And when we say awesome professionals or individual means someone uh, who is like trustworthy, who is honest, integrity of the person is there. People love to work with him. Similarly, they love they love to support each other in a team. Those are awesome people in a team. They want to support each other, they want to help each other, and they want to help each other in a proactive way instead of just waiting someone will ask for help, then I will go for it. So we aspire to be awesome people. And then next is context count. Uh, each individual has its own personality attributes, uh, skills level, background, beliefs. Mean each one is unique, isn't it? And when they gather together in a team and they interact with each other, it, and they become a team of unique people. Okay, not only because each person is different, but also the situation a team faces is also unique. So it means that it results in a unique team which has its specific context, specific culture. And within an organization, each team is unique, each team has a specific context. Okay, uh, it means if one thing is working fine for one team, it might not work for another team. Okay, so when we should be choosing our way of working, we should always consider the context. context of the team and in fact the context of the whole organization. And then next step is be pragmatic. We are talking about pragmatism for a long time, isn't it, in the previous slides as well. We should not think in terms of zeros and ones. We should not say that, okay, we must have like uh, 7 plus minus 2 number of people in a team, like as Scrum says. Okay, no, it's not compulsory to have 5 to 9 people. You might have 10, you might have 4 people. Okay, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, your situation could be different. Okay, and it shouldn't be the case that all are dedicated. In fact, and we have seen many team members could be part-time. Okay, and our team might not be a whole team. Whole team mean a team of cross-functional people. Mean we have all the function, all the expertise available in one team. Sometimes you have to borrow people from outside for one sprint or two, and they go back. Okay, so it's not compulsory to have a whole team. Okay, and it's not practical as well. Similarly, uh, it's not necessary the team is dedicated. Few could be part-time, but other could be contracted, etc. So we should be very open to it. And also, for example, co-location, again, not compulsory. We have seen there are chances, there could be virtual teams, distributed teams, but important thing is whatever constraints we have to perform or give or produce value as much as we can while keeping all that context in mind. So we need to be more pragmatic. And then choice is good. This is saying that uh, instead of imposing just one method on us, if choices are given to us, okay, and guidance is given to us that, okay, which choice is useful in which scenario. For example, if you are a project team, which method, which life cycle work best for you, or for example, if you are a product team, or if you are a program team, or if you are a exploratory team, or maybe you are value stream teams, which life cycle is useful for you. If choices are given to you, then there are strong chances that you will be making the right decisions. Okay, and then there comes optimize flow. Optimized flow is more about lean and flow concept, and this has come for value stream. And uh, each organization has value streams in their organization. Sarah, do you have like value streams in your organization?
Yes, we do.
Would you like to mention one of the value stream?
I don't remember them, all of them, but specifically, I mean, we have goals. I mean, we have targets as to, for example, I don't know if it's right, like optimize, increase bandwidth, optimize cost, and yeah.
Yeah, these are lean concepts. Basically, what is a value stream? We must have to understand it before moving further. Value stream starts with customer or client. Okay, it continues with customer and client. Basically, what we are saying, when customer put a request to our company for a service, for a product, okay, then value stream starts. Maybe it came from marketing team and sales team, then it went to HR or client, or legal team, then it might went to engineering team, then maybe operation team. But important thing is then our customer is served. Okay, so this is a value stream. It starts with the customer, ends at a customer. In fact, it continues with the customer, and it may have one team who is serving the customer. It may have multiple teams who are serving the customers. So this is value stream. This is work request come from the client, and it goes through many different departments, many different teams until customer is served and it goes back to customer. Okay, that's basically value stream. I'm not going in depth of it, but important thing is we must optimize the flow of work through value streams. That's this principle. Organize around product and services. Instead of organizing yourself as a project teams, organizing yourself into the departments, like HR department or marketing department. Try to organize yourself around the products, around the services. In fact, these value streams I'm talking about, their outcome is products and services. So instead of mm, departmental teams, if you have product teams or services teams with cross-functional people in them, then you will see that flow of work is very fast and your customer will get the value they deserve enough in an optimized way. And then next point is enterprise awareness. Uh, Normally, if you look on Scrum, Scrum is made for team. Okay, just one single team, 5 to 9 people. Okay, and normally instead of bridging the gap between the technology or business people, in fact, it enclose or isolate the team within its context, where team is just thinking about team's goals, team's objectives, team's performance, instead of keeping the holistic view in mind. Instead of thinking about, okay, our goals as a team are matching with our strategic objectives of the organization or not. So DA promotes to work in an enterprise aware manner, in a more holistic manner. So these are the key principles. Any question about them?
So in PMP, we had, so I'm forgetting some of it, it's been a while. We had functional organizations that you had departments and you had very projectized, so that was a very different thing. But you had something that was called hybrid. So is this also around, like, organized around products and services? So maybe a concept is where you have some functional departments, but you also have people who are reporting in that service section or something like that.
Oh, yeah, and the important thing is how you organize your teams. You know what happens? This is our organization structures, isn't it? Okay. Okay, I'm just making a random structure. Okay. But what I'm trying to show is normally we have CEOs and then VPs, and then we have senior management, then we have middle management, and then under them we have normally team members, isn't it? Okay, for example, this is marketing team, and this is, for example, legal team, and this is our engineering team, etc. So this is hierarchical vertical structure. Okay, we normally follow in any organization. But when clients come and its request comes, the flow of this work, that is client request, normally it goes like this horizontally. Okay, that's the pattern of workflow. But the control and governance and communication is like this, up and down, up and down. Okay, so what's happening? A lot of delays being produced. Okay, that is basically hindering the flow of the work. We must optimize this work. We Until we don't have more horizontal flow of control, governance, and communication, our workflow will always be hindered. It always be delayed. So we need to improve our systems as much as we can. So that's something we are talking about, and we can only do it when we organize our people around value streams or their outcomes. That is basically our product and services. Now, let's move further and talk about. Mm, Sorry, in upcoming slides, they are talking about these principles in more detail, but we already talked about them, isn't it? So I am skipping these slides because we already talked about all of these principles. Okay. So that we can reach to our next step, that are our discipline agile promises. But before that, a JRNA time. Yes, Yusuf, would you like to read JRNA? Are you here, Yusuf? Sarah.
One of the disciplined agile principles is be cool. Yay.
In fact, nay, because be awesome is the right principle. So just naming thing. Okay, let's move to next JRNA. So, would you like to read?
Okay. Instead of prescribing best practices, disciplined agile provides strategies for maximizing the benefits of agile. Prescribing, no prescribing is there. Strategies for maximizing. Yeah.
That's correct. The reason is disciplined agile says that we don't believe in best practices. It is context that count. But one type of practice could be best practice for one team and might not be useful at all for another team. So that's why we don't believe in best practices. And then there comes our next step, that is promises. Promises are that we make with ourselves, with our team, with our stakeholders, with our clients. These are type of disciplined behavior to become awesome teams, to become awesome individuals. And Sarah, would you like to read these promises?
Create psychological safety and embrace diversity, accelerate value realization, collaborate proactively, make all work and workflow visible, improve predictability, keep workloads within capacity, improve continuously.
So these are the promises we make as a team so that we can delight our customers, can become awesome team. I'm not going in depth of all of them, just let's discuss one bit, that is create psychological safety and embrace diversity. When we talk about psychological safety, this is producing an environment of safety. We call it psychological safety. It could be done in different stages. Stage one is inclusion safety. Inclusion safety mean embracing diversity and diversity inclusion. So it means that when we are basically have the team members, we shouldn't be thinking about someone or making decision about someone based on gender, based on, for example, nationality, religion, belief, language, accent, and so on and so forth. That's basically our inclusion safety. Okay, it shouldn't be based on that. And when we have diverse cultures, okay, times come because of this diverse cultural background or diverse religion background, sometimes we feel bad. But if we can create an environment where uh, we should when where we are embracing this diversity, embracing these different viewpoints, then we can expect uh, innovation, we can expect creativity. So diversity inclusion is tough, but it is very, very useful. And it is first stage of psychological safety called inclusion safety. The second stage is, we call it learning safety, where everyone should have an environment of learning and they can learn new skills, new things without any fear. Stage three is contribution safety. Contribution safety, as from name, it tells that there shouldn't be any issue in the system, in the organization, and there should be a very clear path that can help the team members or the employees to contribute and add the value in the organization. And the last but not the least, very, very important stage is we call it safety of asking questions or questioning safety. That is basically the last level, the highest level of psychological safety, where everyone can basically question the status quo. Everyone can ask that, okay, if we are doing one thing in one way, why we are doing in this way? Why cannot we do it in a different way without fear of losing job, losing career, etc. That is basically psychological safety. And that's we want to create in our team, in our organization to become awesome organization. Any question about it?
So these levels of safety, these are in discipline agile, or it's a different theory, or I'm getting
Mean this is further explanation of psychological safety. Yeah, and then there comes the guidelines. Yusuf, would you like to read these guidelines? I think Yusuf is not available. Umar, would you like to read them?
So, and follow these guidelines. Guidelines are validate our learning, apply design thinking, attend to relationships through the value stream, create effective environments that foster joy, change culture by improving the system, create semi-autonomous self-organizing teams, adopt measures to improve outcomes, leverage and enhance organizational assets.
These guidelines help us to become learning individual, learning teams, and learning organizations. These guidelines are very deep, very helpful. We cannot cover or discuss all of them in detail. Let's discuss one of it. Which one would you like to discuss, Umar?
I would like to discuss applied design thinking.
Oh yeah, surely. We can discuss design thinking and Umar.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
Oh, okay, awesome. So design thinking, what do you think, Umar? What is design thinking? What is your mm,
It's a very oft-repeated terminology these days. Everyone seems to be talking about design thinking, but I think it's something that's considered from the user's perspective, the people
true,
who are consumers. So we're thinking about them. So
true, true. So when we develop a solution, instead of designing and developing a particular solution from developer perspective, who is developing it, or engineer perspective, who is developing this solution, we should be thinking more about uh, user uh, perspective. Mean we need to show empathy as a developer or a solution team to our users. We need to put in their shoes. We need to think about their environment, how they are going to use this solution we are developing. Okay, and here we talk about two things: user centric. Okay, and that is empathy to user, and usage centric. That is how this product will be used by the user. Okay, when we are designing the screen, when we are designing the UX or UI, uh, 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 basically we should be thinking about the user. Okay, uh, and again, it's not only applicable to this software industry, it is applicable to any industry. For example, uh, user interface or UX is uh, something that we say that is from our software industry. But if you think about other industries, for example, uh, industrial interface, okay, that is interface that is more like electronic product, etc. Okay, so in that case, still we should be thinking from user perspective, uh, and we can do it by creating an environment of empathy towards the user. That's basically our design thinking. Uh, it is a mindset. It helps us to write the right test cases. For example, usability test cases or user experience test cases. And it helps us to design the solutions that are highly acceptable by our users. That's why nowadays UX designers or UI designers, they are like in high demand. It has become the component of any solution. On top of front end plus back end and plus our databases. Okay, this is like front face of it. Especially when our solution is being used by the customers. Maybe if it is a back-end solution like APIs, it's a different story. But the thing is, like most of the software applications are user-facing. So this is design thinking. Any question about it or comment? Okay, let's move further. What is guided continuous improvement? That's what discipline agile promotes very much. Remember, guys, except understanding DA mindset, we didn't go in depth of anything of DA. Okay, but one of the thing before going in depth of DA toolkit, one of the thing that DA promotes is GCI, guided continuous improvement. What they want is don't go for agile transformation, especially one-time agile transformation. Become learning organizations. That's important. Okay, the organizations who choose their way of working, they learn and they keep on improving. For example, Google, for example, Amazon, etc. They are learning organization. They just keep on improving. That's what they do. Okay. Now let's dive deep into guided continuous improvement and see its different bits. What is this loop, Sarah?
It's a continuous improvement loop.
Yeah, or Kaizen loop, and it was developed by scientist or management consultant Deming. Okay, and Deming was the one who basically revolutionized the whole uh, automotive industry in Japan. Okay, before this, automotive industry was not very good in Japan. He proposed this cycle PDCA, or you can call it PDSA. Okay, in fact, Deming use both the terminologies, plan, do, check act or plan, do, study act, for the sake of system improvement, for the sake of process improvement. At the end, he basically settled with PDSA. That's why Discipline Agile always use PDSA instead of PDCA. This is, as Sarah said, that loop of continuous improvement or Kaizen. Okay, that Kaizen is two words of Japanese, Kai and Zen, for continuous improvement. And what it does, it basically help to improve the system components in a continuous manner. Okay. Before going in depth of Kaizen loop, let's also have a look on DA approach for continuous improvement. It is a 6-step approach. Okay. Firstly, you should be using a scientific way when you want to improve yourself. I mean, you just not saying that, okay, we are going to continuously improve ourselves, but it should be based on, for example, data available. It should be based on the evidence available, or it should be a very scientific approach where you take a hypothesis and then you experiment that hypothesis and then you learn from it. So take a scientific approach. And whenever you are going for a continuous improvement for anything, you should define very clean and clear objectives and the success measures. Okay. After that, choose a very clear starting point. Where are you starting from? The next step is you should have a very clear idea that, okay, if we are going to improve a particular bit, what would be the benefits of that change? Offer the choices. Mean when you are proposing solution could be multiple, and should be very simple. And the last step is Those solutions, as I earlier mentioned, that should be in the form of a simple model everyone can access and use. That's the approach for DA. Even when they developed their own toolkit, they followed this particular approach. But let's come back to the actual thing, the Kaizen loop, okay? That is PDSA loop or PDCA loop, how it works. So, Elsa, would you like to comment how Kaizen loop work?
I was not attentive, so I probably cannot comment right now.
Okay, that's all right. So basically, when you come across a problem that you want to improve, you identify that problem. You can use any root cause technique. How many root cause techniques, root cause analysis techniques we can use? Soil, uh, in your mind, examples of root cause analysis techniques.
Well, offhand, we can have the what do you call that, fishbone?
Yeah, fishbone diagram, for example.
Yes. And
What if scenarios or 5 whys?
5 whys? Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, and also like that impact map. So there are various techniques for root cause analysis that can help us to identify the problem well. It's good to identify problem in as much detail as possible, and if you can write a problem statement, it is also helpful. Okay, because it gives you a concrete statement. After that, plan by identifying the potential solutions. That could be more than one solutions, uh, and you can choose, in fact, one solution to try that. Sometimes it happens people use multiple solutions in parallel to see the effectiveness of those solutions. But nevertheless, think about, you chose one solution out of multiple options and tried that solution. Okay, that is do component of the loop. Uh, you tried that solution, for example, for an iteration, okay, for 2 weeks. At the end, in your retrospective, you checked its effectiveness and the solution you use to improve the product or a process or collaboration between the people. If it's working, keep on using it. If it doesn't work, abandon it. Okay. In any case, you will have a lot of learnings. Share those learnings and go back to the loop and keep on improving your different aspects of a system, different components of a system. Okay. Uh, and see the effectiveness of your continuous improvement. That is PDSA or PDCA. Now, let's uh, move next. Okay. Mm, Here in the previous slide, yeah, here when we try to improve one component, uh, remember guys, here is a concept of complex adaptive system. What is complex adaptive system? This is saying that an organization is not a simple system, it is complex system. Reason, you cannot define a whole organization by defining its different components. Okay, yeah, okay, if you define this, basically you are defining the whole organization. No, basically uh, a system is bigger than some of its components. Reason, because when different components they interact with each other, okay, uh, they result in a very complex scenario. In fact, many different complex scenarios, and overall it results in a complex adaptive system. So the point I am trying to make here is, when you try to apply Kaizen loop on one component, we are not sure that if it will improve this component. Okay, if it improves this component, how it will impact on the other component. Overall, the thing is, like, situation is normally very, very complicated, and you cannot see the effectiveness of improvement uh, of one component on the overall organization. And this concept is told here in this slide. Now, let's move further and try to let me explain you that what point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is what happen is when we identify potential solution to resolve a problem and try it and check its effectiveness. Uh, if it is not effective, we abandon it. In agile world, this concept is called failing fast. How many of you heard about failing fast?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yes.
It's a very common thing. You want to
It's a
fail
very
fast.
common thing. True. And Sarah, did you hear about failing fast?
No, it's my first time.
And Yusuf? Uh, Yusuf might not be available. Failing fast is the concept that, okay, uh, once you try a solution, okay, and assess its effectiveness, if you feel it's not working well, it's okay. You learn something, okay? Failing fast is good because it helps you to save your time. It helps you to save your energy, your resources, and you did the learning and you are going to use another technique or another solution to resolve your problem. That that is when we work in iterations. We were not failed at the end of the project. If we are failed, we just spend 2 weeks. Okay, we spend very little time or very little resources on it. So in agile world, failing fast is okay. Uh, and basically they like it. They say that failing fast is more like a learning. However, what discipline agile promotes, they promote that no one can pay you, okay, to fail fast and learn, and then fail fast and learn, fail fast and learn. Think about Scrum Master course. Would you like to appear for exam right after one day so that you can fail, but you
Fail
saved your
fast.
time? Yeah, failing fast.
No.
No, you will never do it. So what you really want, or even your clients, your sponsors who are paying you the money, what they really want is they want you to succeed more often than failing fast. Okay. And it could be only possible when you do something good on this point, when you are trying your solution. Okay. Uh, if you try the right solution, or in other words, if you have good options available for you, good strategies available for you to choose from, then there are strong chances you will be choosing the solution that will be more appropriate. Okay. Mostly your agile coaches, they can help you in that. Okay. But when I say agile coaches, it is very tough to find the right agile coach. You cannot call someone who completed 2 days training, okay, and become a scrum master without any experience. Okay, agile coaches are those who got like quite a lot of experience. Very tough to find. Very few are available in the market. Maybe 1,500, 2,000, etc. Or another way is what discipline agile promotes. That is, if a comprehensive guidance is given to you, available on your fingertips, just on internet, interactive guidance that can help you to to identify the right solutions and implement it in the right way, then strong chances are that you will succeed more often than failing fast. That's what uh, discipline agile call it: continuous, guided continuous improvement. Now let's look at it further. Here, the first graph is showing you experimenting and you are failing fast because you don't have guidance. Okay, you are learning, no doubt, but you are failing fast again and again. Everyone is hating you, especially the people who are paying you the money. Okay, they cannot pay the team money just for the sake of experiments. They want team to be succeed more often with less failures. That's what we believe in. There is a comment. Okay, so it's it looks like we are already past the time, isn't it? Guys,
Yes. 10
so
minutes.
yeah, should we stop here, Sarah and Yusuf and Sohail?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So let's stop here, and tomorrow we will resume from here, and we will try to cover 2.5 sessions. All good?
Anything
Great.
that we need to work on? Anything that you want us to learn or read before?
You can, I think, if you can, I really don't know. At the moment, I don't think so. Yeah.
I do want to show the dashboard before I leave. Maybe I can